Now recall cause number 21-3841, the state of Texas versus Clayton Bernard Foreman. The defendant is present with his attorney and the state's attorneys. All right. Are the parties ready to proceed?
Yes, ready, Judge. Yes, Your Honor.
And it's my understanding that there's an issue that's come up that we need to address outside the presence of the jury.
Yes, yes,
Go
Your Honor.
ahead, for the record. Let's just give a bird's eye view of what the issue is, please.
If I understand correctly, the defense has raised, they wish to suppress the trash pull, which occurred on April 15th of 2020, which did lead to evidence which formed the basis of the search warrant to acquire the defendant's DNA. Back on April 14th of 21, the FBI agent Tom Gill was contacted by the Beaumont Police Department to find the location of where the defendant was living as a possible suspect in the homicide of Catherine Edwards, and then do a trash pull. Agent Tom Gill contacted the Reynoldsburg Police Department and was specifically got in touch with an officer, Jeff Gammell, and told him what they wanted to do. Officer Jeff Gammell on the 15th was doing multiple trash pulls for a number of different cases, but agreed to do that. And on April 15th, he acquired from their records where they believe Mr. Foreman was residing, which was at 1572 Southwood Avenue, Reynoldsburg, Ohio. He went to that morning. On the curb was a trash can. I can't remember how many gallon trash can he told me. It was out there along with everybody else's trash can was on the street. He went to the trash can, pulled out 2 garbage bags, placed them in his own garbage bag, sealed it, and put it in his property. And later, FBI agent Tom Gill went and got that property, selected a few items from that, and then sent it off, put it in his property. And then eventually that was transported to a DNA lab, and it resulted in a positive hit to or connection to the defendant, Clayton Foreman, which formed the basis of the search warrant later. And I think Mr. Burbank filed a motion to suppress it, claiming he had a right to privacy. It is our position that the trash in the trash can was on the street. It had been abandoned. It's not an issue from the state's position.
Okay.
I believe it's in violation of this Fourth Amendment rights, Your Honor.
Right. There's more than one issue here, right, that we're going to be talking about? Was there another issue about statements made by the defendant?
There was, but that's later. That's going to be with.
We don't need to take that up right now.
We don't.
Okay.
If you, unless you want to, but
I'd rather
Right.
take it up when it's timely.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so go ahead.
Well, that's
Call
what
a witness.
You want me to call the witness and go through it real quick?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The state would call Officer Jeff Gammell.
Yeah, this is open. Yeah, these hearings, they're outside the presence of the jury. The jury can't hear or know what is being said, but the public may. Raise your right hand, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes, sir.
Please have a seat. Thank you. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Burbank. Could you tell the court your name
Jeffrey Gill.
and what do you do for a living?
Currently I'm a sergeant at the Reynoldsburg Police Department in Ohio.
How long have you been a police officer?
Full-time since October of 1997.
And back in April of 2021, were you a police officer with the Reynoldsburg Police Department?
Yes.
What were your duties on that day? In that time?
At that time, I was a assigned to narcotics. I was a Reynoldsburg police officer, but assigned to the sheriff's office drug tester.
And on April 14th of 21, were you contacted by an FBI agent, Tom Gill, requesting information on a Clayton Foreman?
Yes,
Okay, and was Mr. Foreman at that time a person of interest in a homicide?
yes,
All right. And did they request that you locate the best known whereabouts of where Mr. Foreman was residing?
yes,
And did your department have some of that information?
yes, sir. And I checked our data system and we found an address for him in our city.
Okay, and was that at 1572 Southwood Avenue, Reynoldsburg, Ohio?
Yes,
And was that also a Teresa, if you can recall, well, a Teresa Brewer also residing there?
I don't recall that for sure. But
Okay.
I will.
All right, and what specifically did the Agent Gill wish you to do?
He wished me to do a trash pull.
Okay, and for purposes of there, what is a trash pull?
So trash pull is a tool that we use as detectives to gain evidence. It's used in a lot of narcotics cases, like we use in other cases. To gather evidence and information on the narcotics.
Okay, you've done that many times?
Yes,
And you had that entered into court many times?
yes,
All right, and well, in fact, on this particular time, did you tell Agent Gill you were supposed to do that for some other cases as well?
yes,
All right, and so on April 15th, did you in fact go to 1572 Southwood Avenue in Reynoldsburg, Ohio, and go to that particular scene, home?
yes, yes.
And what did you view when you got there?
There was a trash can at the street by the curb.
Okay, and were there other trash cans along the street?
Yes, sir. So back then, that was our city pickup day for trash.
Okay, and so the trash can that was located at 1572 Southwood Avenue, Reynoldsburg, what did it look like?
I don't recall because it's been almost 3 years. I think it was one of the larger trash cans.
About how many gallons?
I think it was one of the 60 gallons, but I'm not positive on the side of the trash can.
Was it consistent with the other trash cans that were along the street?
Yeah, so in our neighborhood, you have either large ones or just regular trash cans that you put out.
And it was at the curb on the next to the street.
Yes.
Is that typically where one in that neighborhood puts their trash when they're ready for trash to be picked up?
Yes.
And so from your perspective, that trash was abandoned by the homeowners and left in their trash can?
Correct.
All right. And was there anything which would entitle those persons in that home to think that the items in that trash can had any privacy interest at all?
No, sir. Abandoned property at that point.
Okay, and did you go to that trash can and take any items out of it?
Yes, sir. I took 2 trash bags.
And what'd you do with those 2 trash bags?
At the time, my undercover car was a black Nissan, and I put the trash bag in the back seat of the Nissan.
Okay, did anybody confront you or say anything to you while you're doing it?
No.
All right, what'd you do with those 2 trash bags?
Immediately when I left there, I went to our police station to have them entered into our property.
Okay, and before putting them in the proper room, did you put them in another trash bag?
Yes, sir. So we have a larger trash bag. I put those 2 trash bags into a larger one and then put evidence tape around the trash bag.
And then did you put that in the property or a property locker?
So we have at our station we have a space like a garage called Sally Port, where we secure larger items like a car and also where we put our trash. So it was secured in that Sally Port.
Okay, and was that for the purpose of putting it there is for Agent Gill with the FBI to come pick it up at a later date?
Yes.
And did he in fact do that on April 16th?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any other involvement in this case?
No, sir.
Pass the witness, Shera.
Well,
Do you have any pictures of the location?
I do not, sir.
Would you agree with that? Have you had a chance to take a look at your report?
Yes.
In your report, and I know this was a couple years ago, did you make mention that it was trash day?
Yes.
How do we know it was trash day?
That was our normal day that we have our trash pickup and say that.
And- I'm sorry. And the other thing is, did you ever make mention in your report that there were other trash cans out in the street?
No, sir.
how do you know that they were, you cannot know for certain that they were giving up any trash, to the public at that time? What their intent was, the homeowners, correct?
For the neighborhood or
No, for the homeowners,
for the?
the people at that residence. You don't know what they were thinking, whether or not they were going to throw it away or not.
I assume since it's in trash can, or it's picked up.
Trash can wasn't by the house or close to the house?
No, sir.
Not close to the house.
No other further witnesses, Your Honor.
Can this man be excused or do you want to ask him?
One last question, Jack, if I may. Did you ever discuss with the person that asked you to do this, the extent of the investigation?
He just told me he was a person of interest in the homicide and, again, I don't remember everything I've said back then.
And what details did they give you in reference to that you remember?
Just that he was a person of interest in a homicide involving a school teacher down there.
And then he instructed you to do what? And this is the FBI agent, correct?
Hey,
Yeah. So, and what did he instruct you to do?
he asked me to give it trash. Cause I told him I pick up trash.
You-
I do all of it.
And so they contacted you the day before this was to happen?
Yes,
Nothing further, Judge.
Nothing for this, nothing further for the purposes of this hearing, Your Honor. We covered the issue of arrest.
Just a clarification, if you'd be so kind, sir. Where you obtained these items was the trash, was it in a canister?
yes, sir.
Okay, and was the canister placed at a location along the street where all other canisters for trash pickup are placed?
Yes,
Oh. Do y'all have like a walkway? Is there, like a concrete walkway
there's a
that
curb.
separates the curb from,
There's a curb, but I don't remember that. I don't believe there's a sidewalk there.
okay, but it was up against the curb, you said, along the street?
Yes, sir.
Oh, and I guess you're familiar when they pick up the trash. If it's not there, then the trash will not get picked up, I presume. If it's not placed in that location, that's an ordinance or something, I guess, or some rule
Correct.
of picking up the trash. Anything else to add? By anything?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
You are excused. Does he need to stay here?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah.
He's going to be our first witness after this. We didn't want to do this before we had the hearing.
Okay, if you'd be so kind to exit, sir, and stay close by. Go ahead. Any summary by the parties?
Your Honor, our position is that it is abandoned property. The defendant had no right to our Fourth Amendment rights. This is well-established law, not only but by the United States Supreme Court. I'd refer the court to California versus Greenwood, 108 South Supreme Court 1625. There's a long line of cases which support that. There's very few cases in Texas because it's like very well established and understood, but I will refer to the court and Nilsson, Nilson versus the state of Texas, a Dallas Court of Appeals decision in May 22nd, 2003, which says trash pulls are abandoned property and there's no right to privacy and no Fourth Amendment rights by the defendant.
Go ahead, Mr. Burbank.
First, I rely upon my motion in reference to the cited factors I think are important. Our position is that the law enforcement had sufficient evidence to do this trash pull with a warrant, and it should not have been warrantless at the time because of the facts and factors that they knew prior to the date of April 2001.
Okay, any Anything else to add?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the court is going to deny the defendant's motion to suppress, and it is true that the leading case that we refer to from the Supreme Court is indeed California versus Greenwood, which was rendered in 1988, which essentially states that defendants do not have anyone else as well, do not have reasonable expectations of privacy protected by the Fourth Amendment in trash, which they place outside their home for collection by the trash collector. And that's just the general rule now that has been ordered since 1988 by the Supreme Court and the Court of Criminal Appeals as well in Flores versus State has touched upon that here in Texas out of 2010. Essentially, they look at it as akin to abandoned property. And when you abandon property, it's free for anything. And also, it's common knowledge that trash left on the side of a public street is readily accessible to animals, children, scavengers, snoops, and other members of the public, according to the Supreme Court. In this case, the facts are conclusive that the trash was items in the garbage left on garbage pickup day at a location next to the street where all others place their trash for pickup, where the authorities have stated this is where or directed this is where the trash left there will be picked up. Then the expectation of privacy is lost that's protected by the Fourth Amendment to those items, and searches and seizures of garbage left at the curb in these particular circumstances are subject to being taken and are not protected by the Fourth Amendment rights that the defendant is asserting. Thus, the motion to suppress is denied. All right, ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Anything else before we bring the jury in?
None from the state.
Not from the bench.
Please bring the jury in. Thank you. Have a seat, sir. And for the record, this witness has already been sworn in, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead.
Could you tell the jury your name?
Jefferson Gammell.
And what do you do for a living?
Currently I'm a police sergeant at the city of Reynoldsburg, Ohio Police Department.
That's Reynoldsburg, Ohio?
Yes, sir.
All right, and you flew down here yesterday to come testify in this case, is that correct? All right, was that,
Just turn your microphone towards your voice there. It's a directional mic. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
and that was your first plane trip ever, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Little harrowing for you, was it?
Yeah, I want to bring my teddy bear, but.
Yeah. But anyway, so how long you been a police officer?
Full time since 1997.
And back in April of 2021, were you so employed?
Yes.
What were your job duties back then?
At that point, I was a narcotics detective and I was assigned to the Sheriff's Office Drug Task Force.
And what do narcotics detectives do? What are their job duties, just in case someone doesn't know?
So at the Sheriff's Office, we were actually working on undercover narcotics and we work complaints and go out to the drug dealers basically.
Okay, all right. In fact, you actually worked in undercover capacities at times, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, you had longer hair back then, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And so as part of some of your duties is sometimes are y'all called or do what's called trash pulls.
Yes.
And what is a trash pull?
So trash pull is, used a lot by detectives, especially in narcotics cases, but it can be used in other cases. Where we will go get the trash, when it's put out. And you can find out, you go at the house, you look for evidence that's in the trash, to do some investigation.
Okay, and part of that reason is that's abandoned property by whoever, house you're looking at. Is that correct?
That is,
You don't need a search warrant to go get trash.
that is correct.
They put it out for the world to get, or for the trash collectors to pick up, and you go pick up that trash and go through it and see if there's any evidentiary value to it.
Yes.
Okay. And sometimes it pays off and a lot of times it doesn't. Okay. Back in April 14th of 2021, were you contacted by an FBI agent by the name of Tom Gill?
Yes.
And what was Agent Gill asking you or inquiring with you about?
Mr. Gill, contacted me and informed me that they were doing an investigation, and a person of interest, there's defendant, wanted to see if he lives in our city. So I checked our computer system and found that we did have an address for him in our city.
Okay, all right. And so a person of interest in a homicide was a person by the name of Clayton Foreman.
That is
Okay, you've never met Clayton Foreman. You don't know what he looks like other than anything you have in your records. Is that correct?
correct.
Okay. And so Agent Gill asked if you had a location where we believed or you believed that he was residing at.
Yes.
And you did have information which indicated he was at a particular residence.
Correct.
And was that residence 1572 Southwood Avenue, Reynoldsburg, Ohio, 43068?
That is correct.
Okay. And did you inform Agent Gill of that?
Yes.
All right. And did Agent Gill have any other requests of you?
We were talking and, we talked about trash and I said I could go get the trash for the next day.
Okay. Did Agent Gill request that you do a trash pull for trash that purportedly was from a Clayton Foreman?
Yes.
Okay. And did you in fact go do that?
Yes.
All right. When did you do that?
It was the next day, the 18th.
All right. So on April 15th, you went to the location located at 1572 Southwood Avenue, Reynoldsburg, Ohio. Okay. And was that a normal residential street?
Yes.
Was that trash day?
Yes.
Okay. Was there a number of trash cans lined up from all the houses along that street?
Yes.
Was there one in front of the residence at 1572 Southwood Avenue? Okay. And do you recall what kind of trash can it was?
I don't remember the trash can itself, but I want to say it was a 60-gallon trash can, but I could be wrong on that. I just remember the trash can.
To the best of your recollection, was it consistent with what the other neighbors had for their trash cans?
Yes, you can have different trash cans out, some were bigger, some were smaller, but yes.
Okay. And from your perspective, where was that trash can located?
It was actually at the curb on the street.
Okay. So from your perspective, that was trash that residence, whoever lived at that house, had placed that trash out for trash pickup.
Correct.
It had been abandoned by the residents of that particular home at 1572 Southwood Avenue.
Correct.
All right. And did you go to that trash can and open it?
Yes.
And did you acquire any objects from that trash can?
I took 2 trash bags from that trash.
Okay. And what'd you do with those 2 trash bags?
Put them in the back seat of my undercover. I had a Nissan, although that was my vehicle at the time. So I put that in the back seat.
Okay. And what did you do with them then?
Immediately went from there and transported to our police station to our property.
Okay. And did you do anything with those 2 different trash bags?
We have a large trash bag, so I put those 2 trash bags into a larger one, and then I sealed that trash bag as it stayed.
Okay. And what'd you do with that bag?
That was entered into our property.
Okay. Is that a secure facility?
Yes.
All right. And was the purpose of you entering it into that particular property container, was that for Agent Gill to come pick up at a later time?
Yes.
And did you do anything or open or check any of the garbage that you had acquired? Okay. You just, as per instructions, you took the garbage, put it in a sealed container and took it to your property room.
Yes.
Did you log it in under a specific identifiable case number so that Agent Gill could acquire that specific? Okay. And to your knowledge, did Agent Gill come and take that evidence the very next day on April 16th?
Yes, we did go out there. Yes.
Did you have any other involvement in this case?
No.
Hope your plane trip back's it's just nice. All right, pass it away, Shera.
And good morning, Detective.
Good morning.
When you placed the bag, or the trash bags, at the police station, you said you used a specific number to identify those bags. Is that correct?
Yes.
What number was that?
Off the top of my head, I don't.
Do you have any?
Once we put the information into our system called IMC, it assigns it a property tag number.
Do you know what that number was in order to keep track of it?
Off the top of my head now.
You're familiar with trash pulls, right?
Yes.
Matter of fact, testified that, that's normal course of business and even in drug trafficking, right?
Yes.
So there may be many trash bags. How did you, or how do you identify that that was a trash bag that the FBI agent might have taken from the facility?
So it would have been entered into that property tag and he would have to sign for that property tag from the property.
But you don't have the number of that.
No, don't have that.
Did you give that bag to the agent when he came to the police facility?
No, sir, I don't hold that tag.
So you don't know what bag he picked up?
I wasn't there the day observant now.
Nothing further, Judge.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor, may this witness be excused.
Any objection?
No.
You're excused, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, please.
Agent Tom Gill.
Raise your right hand, sir. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Yes, sir, I do.
Please have a seat. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burbank. Could you tell the jury your name
Name is Thomas J. Gill.
and what do you do for a living?
I'm retired.
Okay, what did you do?
Originally, I was an FBI agent in Columbus, Ohio.
All right, you had to fly down here to testify here today.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and how long were you an FBI agent?
25 and a half years.
What were some of your job duties as an FBI agent?
As coordinator of a violent crime task force that comprised federal and local agencies that work collaboratively together to target major criminal enterprises.
Okay, and when did you retire?
I retired in April of 2022.
All right, and back in April of 21, were you or your department contacted by the Beaumont Police Department and the Texas Rangers regarding a homicide investigation of a Catherine Edwards?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what capacity were they contacting you regarding?
So it was an internal communication through the FBI from one FBI office to the other, requesting assistance.
Okay, and what kind of assistance were they seeking?
They were investigating a cold case homicide. They thought that they had identified a suspect and they believed that the suspect resided in our area of responsibility.
Okay, that would be in Ohio.
Yes,
All right, and was that suspect by the name of Clayton Foreman?
yes.
All right, and were they asking anything more specific from you or from any law enforcement in that area?
Yes, they requested that we attempt to collect a DNA sample covertly.
Okay, and do we know why they were trying to be covert about it?
They were attempting to match the DNA sample that I was attempting to collect to the known sample that came from the crime scene.
Okay, all right, and what steps did you take to acquire that, at least the location of Clayton Foreman?
Received the internal communication. I verified that the address was a good location. I took a drive out to the address and verified that there were vehicles registered to that address in the driveway.
Okay, would that have been at 1572 South, hold on just a minute, 1572 Southwood Avenue in Reynoldsburg, Isle? And did you confirm that or acquire that through the Reynoldsburg Police Department?
I made a phone call to the Reynoldsburg Police Department and asked if they had any calls for service to that address. And if they did, if they could provide that information to me, who the residents of that address were.
Okay, and so you acquired information that Clayton Foreman was living there with someone with a woman at that particular address.
Yes.
Okay, do you know what the woman's name was? Okay, all right. Would it have been Teresa Brewer?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Then what steps did you take to acquire that DNA in a covert way?
I'll protect Jeff Gammell and advised him that we were going to attempt to do a trash pull, which is a common law enforcement technique where you surreptitiously collect trash that's put out at the curb and then go through it for evidence. Detective Gammell advised that he was going to be out that night, April 15th, 21, doing another trash pull, and that he would get the trash for us from this residence as well. So therefore, we didn't have to go out and grab the trash.
Okay, so you went to the residence sometime before that, then talked to Officer Gammell, and he said he was going to do it for your department.
That's correct.
Okay, and did Officer Gammell do a trash pull at the 1572 Southwood Avenue?
Yes.
And did you go to the Reynoldsburg Police Department to pick up that trash?
Yeah.
Okay, and was it located in a secure location and the property division of the Reynoldsburg Police Department?
Yes.
Okay, how did you identify that it was the trash pull that Officer Gammell had acquired?
The civilian evidence control technician provided the bag to us and compared it to their evidence log.
Okay, there was a specific number that Officer Gammell had logged it into, and you acquired that information and then acquired that property. Is that correct?
Accepting custody of that.
Okay, all right. And when you acquired it, what condition was it in?
It was one trash bag that contained two separate trash bags.
All right. And what did you do with those that evidence at that particular time?
Myself and Special Agent Tisha Hartso started by photographing the bags. And then, as fun as it sounds, we opened up each bag and went through each item of trash, hoping to find something that we thought would contain DNA.
Okay, so you went to a particular room. Where was that located at?
It was in the Sally Port at the police department.
Okay, of Reynoldsburg Police Department?
Yes.
Okay. Was it, were y'all two the only two in that room?
Initially, the evidence control tech was there, but she left the room as we were going through the trash.
Okay, and you said, was there a table there?
Yes,
Did you put anything on top of the table?
yes, there was a roll of brown, kind of like grocery bag paper. That's common in evidence control rooms, and we spread that out on a counter and then just opened up the bags and went through each item.
All right. And so you emptied these two garbage bags of garbage onto this table, which is covered with this brown paper. And you and the other agent were going through this particular home's garbage.
Yes,
What were you looking for?
anything that we thought would contain somebody's DNA who lived in that house.
Okay. And did you do that?
Yes,
And when you acquired certain items out of that garbage, what did you do with it?
we photographed it initially and then we packaged it and transported it to the FBI office in Columbus.
Okay. And when you packaged it, did you seal it and you actually signed it and dated it that day?
Yes, sir.
And did this occur on April 16th of 2021?
Yes.
All right. May I approach the witness, Shera?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'm not sure I need them, but that's fine. All right. Did you prepare a list and a report of the items that you acquired from that cash pool?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And did you also prepare, or as is your common custom, is the FBI creates a chain of custody form for all evidence that y'all acquire?
Yes, it does.
And was one prepared for that in this case?
Yes,
I'm gonna show you what's been marked as states 114 and ask if you recognize that document.
yes, I do.
And what is that?
It's a copy of a 1B document. That's an internal document for the FBI as it relates to evidence.
And it doesn't list the items that you pulled from that trash pull and then sent on to the next link in the chain.
Yes, it does.
Okay. I'm gonna hand you what's been marked as states 115 and ask if you recognize that document.
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
This is a evidence chain of custody form.
For this particular sets of evidence, is that correct?
Yes,
Did you help prepare that?
yes, I did.
Okay, and your signature's on there somewhere too, is that correct?
It is.
Okay, all right. At this time, Your Honor, I'll tender states 114 and 115.
Again, Your Honor, I reurge my motion, reference to states 114 and 1.
You mean your motion to suppress?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. It's overruled. States exhibits 114, 115 are admitted.
The first object that you have in your report, you acquired from that trash pool is what you referred to or described as air. You recall doing that?
Yes,
Okay. I'm gonna hand you what's been marked as state 113A and ask if you recognize this package.
yes, I do. This is the envelope that I put the evidence in and signed or initial and dated.
Okay, and that's your initials and that's your date. You wrote that
I did.
and you sealed it. Is that correct?
I did.
All right. States 113B, you had indicated that you acquired a plastic fork. You recall that?
Yeah,
I'm gonna hand you what's been started, marked as states 113B. You recognize that package?
yes,
It which purports to contain a fork from a trash bowl, and it has what appears to be your signature and the date of 4/16/21 on the back. Is that
my initials in there. Yes.
okay? You said in your report that you acquired 5 empty medicine bottles. And I'm gonna hand you what's marked as 113C. See if you recognize that.
Yes, I do.
And then and is that your signature and the date at the top of the
Yes, my initials and the date.
do you recall anything specific? Do you recall anything specific about the medicine bottles?
I believe the name on the medicine bottles was Foreman.
All right. Give me scissors. Cutting open 113C. Inside, appears to be some medicine bottles. There's 3, 4, 5 medicine bottles. And on the medicine bottles, there's appear to have a name on them.
Yes, it does.
What name?
Clayton Foreman.
You indicated that you acquired a plastic spoon. And I'll hand you what's been marked as states 113D, which purports to contain a spoon. Is that your signature or your initials and your and date that you put on there on April 16th?
Yes, it is.
Hold on that last one. Is that 113 B as in boy or D as in David?
D, I'll try to be more.
Okay.
Correct. D.
Okay.
You had indicated you had acquired another plastic spoon. So I'm gonna hand you what's been marked as stage 113E, which purports to contain a spoon. Is that your initials and date that you sealed it on April 16th of 2020?
Yes,
You indicated that you acquired dental floss, which 113F is purports to contain dental floss. And on the back of 113F, is that your signature, your initials and date that you sealed it?
yes,
Then you acquired two more plastic spoons together, and 113G purports to contain spoons. And is that your initials and the date that you sealed it on the back of 113G?
yes,
And lastly, 113H purports to contain mail. And is that your initials and date that you acquired it 4/16? Is it 20? Says 20.
that does say 20.
Okay, but it is 21 when you put that.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Once you sealed these, what did you do with them?
We eventually went to our evidence control tech, Shera, and she was responsible for entering it into logging it into the FBI evidence system, and then arranging to have it delivered to the Beaumont RA.
Okay. All right. And Cheryl Tolbert was over property, and is that how y'all secured and maintained the integrity of your property?
Yes, correct.
Very similar to the Reynoldsburg property room. That was that division of your department.
Yes,
Okay. And then according to the form and according to, how they do it after she acquired it at a later date on April 2021, she FedExed all this information to the Beaumont Police Department, Aaron Lewallen.
I believe it went to the FBI, but care of a Beaumont police detective who was assigned to the FBI.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Yes. So but it went to Aaron Lewallen, who was working in conjunction with the FBI.
Yes,
This time, the honorable tender states 113A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H.
You're moving it to
Into
evidence.
Yes, sir.
Again, I'll have to judge, subject to my prior motion.
All right. Objections overruled. 113A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H are admitted.
Okay. All right. Information, I want to open up 113H. Your recollection of the mail that you acquired, did it have a name on it to your best of your recollection?
I believe it was addressed to Mr. Clayton.
I'm now going to cut open 113H. Names in 113H. What does that appear to be?
It's a discover credit card, an account number addressed to Clayton B. Foreman at 1572 Southwood Avenue, Reynoldsburg, Ohio. With the zip code.
Be complete. You had indicated there were some photographs taken.
Yes, I could.
May I approach again the witness again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Miranda was been marked as states 140 through 150. Ask if you could examine those photographs and then let me know when they're done. You recognize those photographs?
Yes, I do.
Did you take those photographs or did someone else take those photographs at your direction?
I took those photographs.
And are they fair and accurate photographs of the trash and the trash pool that we were just talking about?
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna tender states 140 to 150.
Again, for the record, Judge, subject to my prior motion on the photographs of.
All right, you're objecting to those. Objections overruled.
And
They're admitted.
for the purpose of the record, Your Honor, I acquired states 113A through H out of what the brown paper bag that we now have labeled states 113. Permission to publish the photograph, Your Honor.
Granted.
States 140. Is that the garbage bag that you acquired from the Reynoldsburg Police Department?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right, and then contained within that were two other garbage bags?
Yes,
Stage 142. Is that the two garbage bags that were contained within the larger garbage bag?
yes,
Stage 143, that's just a different picture of it, is that correct?
that's correct.
Stage 144, is that the hair that was contained within states 113A?
Yes,
Stage 145, that's a couple of some of the plastic spoons that you acquired.
yes,
Stage 146, that's the dental floss that you acquired.
yes, that's correct.
When you were doing all this, were you all wearing plastic gloves?
Yes, we were.
Okay. Stage 147, is that a picture of the plastic fork that you acquired from the trash bowl?
Yes,
Stage 148 are those medicine bottles that we talked about earlier in this case.
yes,
And those are with the name Clayton Foreman, is that correct? That says Clayton Foreman, says Clayton Foreman. Is that correct? Clayton Foreman's on at least three of them.
that's correct.
Page 149, a couple of different plastic spoons that you acquired from the trash bowl.
Yes,
Stage 150, that's the mail that was addressed to Clayton Foreman, is that correct?
yes,
And is that where it says Clayton Foreman right here?
yes,
After your answer, the evidence was transferred to the next link in the chain, did you have any more involvement in this case? Agent, thank you for visiting us. Pass the witness.
thank you.
Morning, Agent.
Good morning, sir.
Do you remember what date you were contacted in reference to going and doing what you just testified to?
I don't recall exactly the date I received the lead, but I recall that on April 14th of 21 is when I reached out to Detective Gammell.
Did you ever go to the residence or of Mr. Foreman?
I did.
And what date did you go to the residence?
I believe that was also on the 14th.
And when you went to the residence, did you just drive by?
Yes,
Did you ever stop?
yes, of course. I turned around down the end of the street, sat there.
So, but you didn't get out of the car.
Correct.
Okay. What were your observations of the residence?
Single family residence, some sort of awning over the front area of the house. There were 2 cars parked in the driveway at the time I was there.
Did you see any individuals?
I did not
Where was the trash can?
see the trash can.
See the trash can anywhere else in any of the residents next to it?
I don't recall seeing it.
When you contacted Officer Gammell, he said to you that he was doing several other trash pulls that night and would help you out. How do you know that was actually the trash, I guess, that he pulled? Or is that based because of the name on the medicine bottles?
Told me that that was the trash.
Have you done this before during your career? Trash pulls? Yeah.
Yes, you may.
Okay. And what's the purpose of doing that? What are you trying to, well, let me get to the point. Are you trying to get some type of DNA or some type of evidence linked to DNA from the trash that you pulled?
It's a tool in our toolbox. It's something that we use. It's a time to gather evidence of the people who reside within the house.
You were with the agency for 25 years. So did that put you back almost to, well, into the 90s?
Yes,
There's been testimony that DNA started in the late 80s, but became prevalent probably somewhere around 1995 and has progressed over time. Would you agree with me?
certainly.
And the procedures and protocols and the ways of trying to get DNA has greatly increased. Would you agree?
Certainly, the analysis of the DNA has improved over the
And-
years.
And they're pulling samples or identifications off of little or just basically touches.
Touch DNA is-
And when I said touch DNA, could that be fingerprints? Like if it was a surface, like a piece of glass or a smooth surface, and it was a latent print, but the oils, you've heard of them getting DNA from oils from the fingertips, right?
Yes, the moisture off your fingers as well as any cells that might have stayed on the surface that you touched.
And the reason for that question, Agent, is that some of this, I believe it was 113C, the bottles. You wouldn't expect any saliva or any fluids on those bottles, correct? I mean, unless they gulped it or the
Used
pills
their
or.
teeth to open the bottle because they were not unable to open it with
Right.
their hands. Yeah, drooled on it. A number of things could leave a DNA sample on that bottle as well as a touch.
And you would agree with me, probably you sent it up because somebody had handled that bottle and there could have been some trace or some type of oil from the fingers or whatever to try to identify them.
That is one of the reasons.
One of the reasons, yeah, and there could have been other, but you don't know what they got off the bottles.
I do not.
And the point being is that if you had fingerprints like this that you were looking for, it was in your professional, your profession. It is not uncommon to send something like that and possibly get DNA off of it. which that's what you were trying to do that day.
Certainly, touch DNA is much less successful than DNA that you would get from saliva or the other body fluids.
Well, bottom line, agent, is even if it was less, you thought that possibly that it could occur because you sent all the pill bottles, right?
Absolutely.
Okay,
The important thing with the pill bottles was the fact that they belonged to Mr. Foreman, and that was pretty obvious that if anyone was to touch him, it would be him that would go for that.
sure, touched them.
Sure.
And then you could not, you only had not only did you have a name, but you also possibly would have a DNA match in there for his fingerprints. Because it was his pill bottle.
We weren't interested in fingerprints, we were strictly interested in.
Right. I agree. Did you do anything else? Did you examine them in any way, or did you just separate them out?
I never conducted an exam in form. I'm not trained in examination or.
Prior to today, you've never met Mr. Foreman, correct? And do you know which resident agent you sent or your agency sent these samples or these confiscated items to?
The only person I interacted with was task force officer Lewallen.
Okay. But you sent them, you didn't, it was your protocol to send them to the resident agent, which would have been the local office of the
Local
FBI.
Yes.
Good to meet you.
Yes.
Thank you. I pass the witness.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor, may be released and fly back to Ohio.
You are excused, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next.
Tina Lewallen.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Yes, sir, I do.
And have a seat. Thank you, ma'am.
And state your name for the record.
Tina Sue Lewallen,
And where are you employed?
Beaumont Police Department.
How long have you worked for them?
I was hired July of 1995, so 29 years.
So you started working there shortly after this offense occurred. Is that correct?
Correct.
And what are your duties with the Beaumont Police Department right now?
I'm currently assigned to the Auto Theft Task Force.
And how long have you been a detective with the Beaumont Police Department?
18 years approximately.
As part of your duties, I guess, as a detective are investigating crimes. Is that correct?
Correct.
And are you married to someone else on the Beaumont Police Department?
Yes, sir.
And what is his name?
Aaron Lewallen.
And what is his position with the Beaumont Police Department?
He is a TFO, which is a task force officer liaison to the FBI. So he's actually housed in the FBI office, but he's a Beaumont Police Department and receives checks from the city of Beaumont.
Back in around, I guess, June of 2020, sometime in that area, were you made aware that your husband and the Texas Rangers were looking into a cold case?
Yes.
And that cold case, did it involve a victim by the name of Mary Catherine Edwards?
Yes.
How did you come to find out that they were opening that case?
Ranger Bess is a friend of my husband's, and they've worked cases together in the past. And Bess had worked recent cold cases using genetic genealogy and was able to get a solved. So he.
Your Honor, I'm going to object as non-responsive.
Question was, how'd you come to find out that they were opening that case?
So hearsay.
All right.
It's not going to the truth of the matter asserted, it's just going to how she got involved in the case. It's just what made her get involved in the case, so.
All right, overruled. Go ahead.
So Ranger Best asked if Beaumont PD had a case that he felt, because he saw using genetic genealogy, and my husband offered this case and thought that this one could be solved.
Okay. So your husband started working with Ranger Best, is that correct?
Correct.
And how did you come to get involved in this?
We have worked very closely with cases through the years, especially complex ones. We were actually partners on the street, so we complemented each other's work styles. I'm an extrovert. I love interviewing people. He's an introvert. He's very good with details and very specific things. So we complement each other in our investigative styles that are very different. And I love genealogy before it was genetic genealogy. So there's two kinds.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. Let's just kind of break it down.
Okay.
So you said you love genealogy. What is it that you loved about genealogy?
It was just the history, the puzzle pieces, knowing who my ancestors were. So back before the internet, I did old school genealogy, going to courthouses and pulling up census and doing family trees just through records, no DNA whatsoever, just doing research and knowing who my great and great great grandparents were. It helps that we have a family cemetery and they're literally laying there for me to put the puzzle pieces together.
So when you talk about looking at records at courthouses, what kind of records were you looking at?
Census, birth certificates, death certificates, even land that was owned. I've looked to see when somebody was missing and I didn't know who was there. Well, who lived in the farm next door? Maybe that will be a missing link.
You also talked to some of your family members to build a family tree.
Absolutely.
So, what are some other tools that you used now that we have internet? What were some tools that you were using on the internet?
DNA. DNA does not lie.
Okay. What about building family trees?
You still build trees.
Okay. But was there also another tool, genealogy tool that you used to help build other than DNA? We're going to get to the DNA part, but were you using any other website to help build family trees?
I would construct my tree on ancestry.com.
That's it. So ancestry.com, everybody has pretty much heard the commercials on ancestry.com. What is ancestry.com?
It is an amazing website that you have access to. If someone is deceased, they have death records on there, birth records on there. Other people put their family trees on there as well. So I may be researching a family and the work's already done. I just validate the work that's already done if it's a public tree. You can set your trees to private. So mine's set to private. I don't want anybody to know who my mom and dad are because I'm in law enforcement, right? So one day I'll make it public, but right now it's private. No one can research my family for my safety reasons. But other people have put theirs in public. And so I was able to go on there and research and build trees from information on Ancestry.
Okay. Now, later on, after you learned how to do all that, did DNA come into the picture as far as researching family trees and things of that nature?
Yes.
Okay. And was there a particular way that you learned that came into being?
So DNA was never a match on Ancestry.com. Never. There was another website called GEDmatch. That one is law enforcement friendly. So that is where the suspect DNA was uploaded to GEDmatch. Okay,
now let's talk about GEDmatch first before we start saying that you could just get on there and look at GEDmatch and get anybody's DNA. How is it that you get onto GEDmatch, and how is it that you get to look at somebody's profile?
You have to register to be on GEDmatch, and anybody can register to be on GEDmatch. In fact, I encourage everybody to do it to solve crimes. But for the suspects, you have to pay And it's a research inquiry that they put on there, and only the person that uploads it can see the results.
Okay, so if you get on GEDmatch and you say, I have this certain person I've loaded onto GEDmatch. Okay. Can anybody else see what you loaded onto GEDmatch? Okay. So if you want to put somebody else to compare to that on GEDmatch, how would you get that person's to look at theirs to compare?
I would ask them to send me their DNA file. So it's a downloadable file that you can get from any DNA company. Family Tree DNA, 23andMe, Ancestry. You can download that file, then that file can be uploaded to GEDmatch. It is, the program and software was made so that not everybody had to, you didn't have to test at every single company to find your matches and get results. You get from all the companies could go to GEDmatch and upload.
So it's a tool. It's not a 23andMe. It's
Correct.
It's a tool for people who go to 23andMe or Ancestry.com or whoever and get their DNA tested. They can go on and search for other people who have allowed their DNA to be viewed to see who family members are. Okay. So whenever you enter something in and you start comparing, you're not comparing identical to identical, are you? It's not like I can say, okay, I can take my DNA and match it and say, this is exactly my brother, right? You can only get certain markers that say.
So you would get a centimorgan match.
Okay, we're going to talk about those.
Okay.
So centimorgans, what are centimorgans?
It's a unit of measurement, like an inch, a cup, a foot. It matching DNA called a centimorgan.
Okay. And centimorgans are important because of what?
You measure the proximity of matching DNA. My mother and I have 3,400. My sister and I have 1,700. So when you get the number, you know how closely related you are to someone.
So the more centimorgans that you have in common with someone else, the closer relation you are to them.
Correct.
And so by looking at the markers on how many centimorgans a person is in relation to another person's DNA, if they compare, you can kind of get an idea of whether they belong to a family, right?
Yes.
And how closely related they are to the other individual that you entered in from that family.
Correct.
And you can kind of follow a family tree that way.
Yes.
All right. Now, do you just use that as the tool to try to find people and their family members and their trees?
We use so many tools.
Okay. So it's not just the DNA you're relying on. Is that correct?
Correct.
You're also relying on what the public records you talked about. Is that correct? So what other things are you relying on besides just the public records that you can go research at the courthouse and the DNA?
The internet is a huge source of information. Somebody would have a match. I need to find out more about this person. So I would research that person and find out who their great-great-grandparents were. And by doing that, I looked through a whole lot of census.
Okay, so you can go to the census that are online.
I looked at birth certificates, death certificates. Census were just amazing. That's really how you build and find out who the siblings are. But you only have every 10 years worth of information. A lot can happen in 10 years.
So would you also, once you would find people, would you talk to them about their family tree that they know about?
I did.
And would you also ask them, hey, would you mind us uploading, or have you been tested in 23andMe or somewhere else?
I certainly did.
Or if you haven't, would you mind being tested?
Correct.
So would you take those that have been tested or those that were willing to be tested and have those uploaded to GEDmatch?
Correct.
And then compare them?
Correct.
And did you, in this case, did you do all that and follow all these trees and the DNA, the census, talk to people, look at their family trees? Did you gather all that information?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, in part of that, did you come across someone who was doing this pretty much as a professional?
Correct. I did.
Who was that?
Shera, LaPoint.
Okay. And how did you come across Shera LaPoint?
As I'm researching the trees of the matches of our target, I kept seeing the same lady's name that she was building these same trees with who I'm looking into. So I was curious, who is this Shera LaPoint and why is her name on all of these trees that I'm researching? So being a detective, I stalk her, I'm sorry, I investigate her and look in to see who she is. And I find out she's a genealogist. She's got no criminal record. And so I reach out to her to ask her, just for further confirmation, who are you and why are you building all these trees? I'm a genealogist and I tell her who I am. And she said, if you're working.
Objection, Versa.
Just y'all began to work
Same.
together, am I right?
We did.
Okay. Now, was it kind of important to have her along as part of this process?
Absolutely.
Why was she invaluable in looking at this particular tree?
So once I started realizing and putting the trees together and looking at centimorgans, I was learning that it's a term called endogamy, and it's when distant cousins marry each other, and you will pass down DNA, and then maybe it was your grandparents' second cousins, and then you marry a second cousin. You may have never even met them or know you're related to them. It increases your centimorgans because that DNA doesn't just go away. It gets passed down and passed down. So it's very common in what I know to be the Cajun culture to have higher centimorgans because the area was so isolated for so many generations and the numbers are saturated with centimorgans.
So everybody's pretty much closely related or related to each other through cousins and second cousins.
And most, not all, are related to each other in numerous ways.
Matter of fact, we'll talk later. Y'all discovered through your research that Shera LaPoint was actually related to this family tree. Is that correct?
Correct.
And she found, well, we'll deal with that with her. So as you start looking through and matching this is not to say who did this, right?
Correct.
This is a tool to use to kind of point the investigation in a direction, right?
To produce a lead, yes, sir.
And once you get that lead, y'all still have to do the detective work that you're, okay. And so in this case, how many people did y'all build the tree? About how many people were in the tree?
We had over 7,400.
And some of these went back into the 1800s, didn't they?
Yes, sir.
I mean, y'all had to you start with somebody close. What do you call that person that you find that's closely related now? It's
Most common recent ancestor?
most common recent ancestor. That's the person you can find that's common to all these centimorgans and things that's recent. And then you start building the tree out from there. Is that correct?
Kind of.
Kind of. Okay.
So it's like you triangulate.
Right.
So you have your target.
Right.
And then you have a match. And then you work up and triangulate who this common set of grandparents are.
Okay. So y'all had involved, you know your husband had involved a laboratory called Othram, correct?
Correct.
You never saw Othram's results, did you?
No, I did not.
All right. But you did have at least a list of names to start with.
Yes.
And that's where y'all began.
Correct.
And how long from the time when you started the process of the names until you had developed a lead or several leads, how long was that process?
About 3 months.
How long would you work on it every day?
We figured it up and my husband and I would have made over $50,000 in overtime if we had put in for overtime, but we did not.
So this was something y'all worked on in your spare time, right? Along with your work.
Along with my work and my spare time and on weekends. And there were nights that I didn't sleep. I'd work through the night.
So in that time frame, did y'all come up with leads that you would follow and learn that those were not the right way to go?
Correct.
And not just through the DNA, but through other things that you researched. Is that correct?
Primarily it was the DNA. Once we exhausted a family and we never got higher markers, we knew we weren't on the right triangulation because like I said, they are related in different ways. A lot of people, I'm not saying,
And some leads you had were actually had ties to the Beaumont area, right?
yes, many did,
And did y'all question and talk to those?
yes,
And did you rule them out?
yes,
And also through their DNA, did you rule them out?
correct.
And then as you narrowed it down, did you come to two brothers in the Beaumont area
I did,
at that time? Well, they weren't in the Beaumont area, but two brothers that had had ties to the Beaumont area.
yes,
And what were their last names?
Foreman,
Okay. Was one Clayton Foreman?
yes,
And did he have a brother?
yes,
And after looking at Mr. Foreman, did his centimorgans matched with the family tree?
I did not know.
Oh, you did not have his. That's right. You didn't at that time.
No.
You had what? A close relative. What was the relative? Not his
Actually, it
name.
wasn't even a close relative.
Okay, who was it?
We had numerous
Okay,
second cousins,
all right.
numerous. How we were able to narrow it in is we followed this family tree and knew that he was related to everyone in this family. But when you know you've got the right common ancestors is when you're also able to match from mom's side or dad's side of the family now. We originally did mom's family tree and came to two guys from Beaumont, right age range. Let's look at this. So some of our other matches, we ran a tree on them, made the tree and realized this tree is his mama's and this tree is his dad's. It's one of these two brothers.
Okay.
It's going to be a child from that union.
And after looking at them, both of them, did you look at them as a detective would look at them?
I did.
And after doing that, did you determine that y'all would look at Clayton Foreman?
I did.
All right. So what's the process that you and your husband and Ranger Best decided to do would be best to try to determine if y'all had the right suspect?
We needed his DNA.
Okay. And how did y'all decide to go about that?
My husband reached out to the FBI in Ohio where Foreman was living at the time. And they did a surreptitious, I'm so sorry.
Surreptitious?
Yes.
Oh.
Secret trash room.
Okay.
They didn't tell him, they didn't ask for permission. The trash was abandoned at the side of the road and FBI in Ohio went and picked up the trash.
So after that trash search, there was a DNA test, is that right?
Correct.
And after that, did y'all stop working on your family tree?
We did.
Okay. And because of the results of that search or that testing.
Correct.
Okay. Now, afterwards, did you have some other things that you did as a detective, but interviewing witnesses and things of that nature, people who knew Mr. Foreman?
I did.
And talk to those and get several different statements from different people?
I did.
Okay. And after you completed those witness statements, did you have any further investigation part in this other than coming to testify today?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Pathway.
All right, we're going to take a short break, ladies and gentlemen, 5-10 minutes, refresh. And
Is there got excited when you go start writing this down.
okay. Record shall show the jury is seated in the courtroom. We are ready to proceed. Witness, Ms. Lewallen, is on the stand. I believe the witness was tendered for cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Good morning, Detective.
Good morning.
So after all of what you said, let me. That's some questions.
Okay,
This was a cold case.
correct.
You had results from Cellmark,
I didn't.
but you knew that there were results from Cellmark that didn't identify anybody. Right? I'm putting it in simple terms, but not technical terms. Okay? And if you disagree with me.
We did not have a code stick.
And somebody contacted your husband and said, hey, do you have anything that we can work on unsolved cases?
Yes.
I'm putting it real simple. Okay. So you pulled the Edwards case, and I assume, or tell me because you know when you assume what that means.
Well, I can stop you there. I did not hold the Edwards case.
Well, somebody in your department,
Yes,
you're Beaumont PD, right? Okay.
I just want to make sure it was not.
Yeah, but you were part of it, and you testified how you and Aaron, Detective Lewallen, your husband, worked a lot of cases. You're the he's the inside person, okay? And so from your understanding, did they then take what Cellmark did and send it over to Orthram?
I have no idea how.
Well, somehow, yeah, okay. But that's probably what happened.
Maybe speculating. I have no idea.
But at the time, and I guess the point I'm trying to get to, Detective, is that at the time that y'all got involved again, and that's Beaumont PD and the Rangers, whoever. You sent whatever you had over because you had a dead end, and you may not know the answer, but a dead end with Cellmark and DPS or wherever you had done previous testing with. And so you sent it to Orthram, which is Mr. Middleton.
No.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. And he came up with some result.
Yes.
And I guess you took all the stuff, or you would hope, or you would think that all of what you had in your possession, you were gonna go have tests because you were at a dead end and you needed to try to get it moved or get it solved.
Not necessarily.
No?
It's a very expensive procedure. In fact, to do the initial testing was over $10,000 to get one
Detective,
profile.
but you have a 30-year-old case that you haven't solved. And how do you put a price tag on trying to get
Price tags are
this
not my business.
resolved? Well, but were you ever told you couldn't do this or that because of the cost?
No, sir.
No, okay. You said you weren't part of it, but whatever y'all had to be sent to Orthram to get whatever you got.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so they gave you a result, Orthram, that's they. And then you did that and you started your family tree stuff.
Correct.
Did it direct you over to Louisiana
The
initial?
yes,
Okay. Did it direct you anywhere else?
all over.
All over. In fact, you said that you had about 7,500 leads.
That's including deceased people, generations back.
Right, but
Yes.
and you were able to come up with one side of the tree, which was mom's. And then you started the triangulation and then tried to get dad's tree. Or how did you associate mom and dad generations back? Was it through records?
Yes.
Because most people up until recently. When I say recently, when you go through the whole span of life, living beings. This is really new and a lot of people never had their DNA done.
Correct.
Especially people that are old. I mean, that have just been deceased. My grandparents, your grandparents, no DNA, probably not even my mom and dad. So did you do it by records?
I did do it by records and the information that the family gave me as well.
So you contacted these people
I did.
and then went through, okay. But you used all the resources and you finally came down to two individuals, were the Foremans, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's when you went and proceeded to, and I think you talked about it, contacted Ohio. I guess you contacted his brother too.
No, not at that point.
You never talked to, you don't know whether or not his brother was contacted?
Not at that point.
Okay.
After he was in touch with his brother.
Oh, okay. And you came up with the name? Or a person of interest? Right? Did you come up with any other person of interest?
The two Foreman brothers.
That was it.
That was it.
And that was based on what Orthram did.
Correct.
Subject to recall, Your Honor, I passed it in.
I have nothing further to discuss.
Can this lady be excused? You are excused now. Thank you. Next, please.
Call Shera LaPoint.
Come forward, please. And raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes, sir.
And please have a seat. Thank you.
Kind of get that chair where you're more comfortable. It's kind of hard to do. There you go. You're too close. You need to get back a little.
Okay.
How's that?
That's good.
Better?
I'm
Okay.
there.
All right. Can you state your name for the record, please?
Shera, Broussard, LaPoint.
And where do you work?
I work for DNA Labs International,
How long have you worked for DNA Labs International?
for about 11 months.
Okay. And what do you do for them?
I am a forensic genetic genealogist,
And where are they located right now?
Deerfield Beach, Florida.
And are they a certified laboratory?
Yes, they are.
Now, back in 2020, when I believe you got involved in the case we're talking about, were you working for them?
No, sir.
All right. Who were you working for at that time?
I actually was self-employed.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about your background. How did you become interested in genealogy?
So I first became interested in genealogy when one of my grandfathers died, and I realized I didn't know a lot about his family. And I started doing genealogy in about 2003.
Okay. And so how did you go about it in 2003? How did you start the process of looking on the family tree?
Libraries, courthouses, ancestry.com.
Just normal things every day people can do, right?
Correct. Yes,
And so most of the tools that you use, anybody can use. Is that right?
yes, sir.
Just need a little experience. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you started working on family trees. Did you start helping other people look at their family trees?
At that time, no.
Okay. When did you start doing that?
So in 2015, I took a DNA test on Ancestry.com.
Okay.
And when the results came in, I became very curious as to what the numbers meant and realized that I was DNA matched to a bunch of people that I didn't realize I was a DNA match to. And I wanted to know how the process worked. And that's when I really got interested.
Okay. What state were you living in at that time?
Louisiana,
Is that where your ancestors are from?
absolutely.
Okay. And what is unique? Let's get this part. What is unique about searching a family tree in Louisiana?
So we are mostly of Acadian descent. And our ancestors came from Nova Scotia. They settled in South Louisiana in the late 1700s. And they couldn't travel far. They were mostly Catholics. And so they lived close together. They married within that population. And what has happened is through the years, we share many ancestors because we all come from the same pool.
So when you start looking at the genealogy of people in Louisiana, you come across some different numbers than you would if you were going somewhere else.
Yes.
All right. So let's talk about this case. You were at, well, let's do something else. Are you a member of any associations involving genealogy?
Yes, sir.
What do you remember though?
So I'm a member of the American Association of Professional Genealogists. I'm a member of the National Genealogical Society. I'm a member of a lot of local societies. Central Louisiana, Lafayette Genealogical Society.
Now I know that the American Society of Professional Genealogists, that one, does it have, and I think the others do, but I know that one has, does it have ethics, an ethics guide or actually an ethics program in that?
Yes, sir.
Can people file, like they can with the State Bar of Texas, can they file grievances against you, complaints against you with that?
Yes, sir. We do have a code of ethics that we have to follow.
And that code of ethics, if somebody were to file a complaint, would be investigated by that agency, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Now, are you in good standing with them?
Yes, sir.
No complaints filed?
No, sir.
Have you used genealogy in the past to help, in your profession, to help identify people's ancestors?
Yes, sir.
And what type of situations?
So, different situations, adoptee cases. I've worked.
When you say adoptee cases, what do you do in adoptee cases?
So, an adoptee doesn't know who their biological family is. So I help them to find who their parents are.
Okay.
Okay. Situations that we call non-paternal events, like if you don't know who your father is, or someone may have taken a DNA test and found out that the man they thought was their father is not their father. Work those cases. And I've also helped in some law enforcement cases, unidentified human remains.
Okay, one of those in particular that people might be familiar with was the killing fields. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How
This is killing fields.
how did you help in that case?
So, I got involved with that case because my father-in-law was a DNA match to one of the bodies that was found in the Calder Road area. And I helped work that case to figure out who she was.
Okay, so did you receive an award from the police department for your
Yes.
work in that?
Yes, sir.
Now, have you ever testified in a courtroom before?
Once in divorce court for my parents' divorce.
Okay, but not as a genealogist.
No, sir.
All right, this is your first time.
Yes, sir.
All right, now, what are some of the tools besides public records and things that you look at? What are some of the tools that you use in determining people's genealogy?
Okay. So we have sites that we use, such as there's a site called DNA Painter. There's something called the Shared Centimorgan Project that we use. There's a tool called GEDmatch that we use.
Okay. So in this case, did you utilize all those tools?
Yes, sir.
along with all the tools of the public records.
Yes, sir.
And does that include birth, death certificates,
Census records.
and things of that nature?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So how did you become involved in this case?
So when I got involved in DNA, I encouraged all my family members to DNA test.
Okay,
And, my father-in-law, my husband, my son, were DNA matches to, the DNA that was found. And so, when law enforcement was looking at GEDmatch, my email address kept popping up,
okay.
and that's how I got involved.
So you were actually involved in the family tree that Tina Lewallen was researching.
Absolutely.
And so because you were related to some distant relative or some way in this case, you became involved.
Yes.
And did you do it voluntarily?
Yes.
All right. Did that help in the investigation, looking at the family tree, to be able to know some of the family
Yes, sir.
and to tell them you're part of the family?
Yes, sir.
So what was your part in this investigation as far as looking at the family tree?
So the process that I used was to, since my father-in-law was the highest match that I knew, my job was to figure out how my father-in-law and other DNA matches were connected. Who was the most recent common ancestor on those lines?
Okay, so you started from there.
That's where I started.
All right. And built the family tree from the most recent. Did you start working upward or older or newer?
So you start with the older one.
Okay.
And then you build down.
Okay. So what is it you're looking for as far as trying to match somebody and how closely related they are?
So, if I knew that my father-in-law and a particular match were second cousins, that meant they shared like great grandparents. And so I would start from there. And as I build the tree down, I'm looking for connections to other DNA matches to see where they fit in that tree. And I also am looking for information to give law enforcement leads, like maybe an area that a person lived in. If a crime happened in a certain area, you look at that information. If you know if they were male or female, you look at that information when you build a tree, age, things like that.
Okay. Now, sometimes when you start following a tree and you get to the end of that tree, do you discover that you've been tracing the wrong tree for?
Yes, sir.
And do you have to back up and start from another angle?
Yes, sir.
And sometimes, and even in this case, do you find out that sometimes there are like a husband that had an affair on a wife and had an illegitimate child that has received a different name?
Yes, sir.
And was that in this case?
Yes, sir.
So it's one trail you had to follow. Is that right?
That is correct.
And do you find that out through talking to relatives and things of that nature?
That is correct.
So when you got to looking at starting off, do you remember how many people y'all had in your tree to start with?
If I remember right, when I gave the lead to Detective Lewallen, my tree had 7,409 people in it, I believe.
Okay. So y'all had traced all these people that were in that tree, is that right?
That is.
And that when you did, you narrowed it down to basically one individual or two individuals.
2 individuals.
Now, your job is not to say, okay, now we got this, let's match these two together, right?
No, sir.
All you're doing is pointing them in a direction.
Okay.
Did you point them in a direction before where they talked to some people and it turned out that that was not the person because they didn't have a tie?
Yes.
And did the DNA rule them out?
Yes.
Okay. So in this tree, when you came down to two people, what were their last names?
Foreman.
And what was the one that we decided after looking at? Did you decide which one that you would go and test or get the trash or do anything?
No, sir.
All right. All you did was say, here's these two people.
That is correct.
And you waited to see how that turned out.
That is.
Now, after they did the search and the testing and everything. Did you do any further work on that tree?
After they did the testing, no,
Talking back, they got the DNA results. You did no further testing, did you?
no, sir,
Didn't need to, did you?
no, sir.
Okay, I'll pass with you.
Oh, Mr. Blunt.
Good morning.
They still only have one motel at Bunkie.
We have two. I've been stating.
We all might be. I have. We may be Ken from Mansura. But you received, what did you receive to start your investigation from Lewallen?
I received the names of DNA matches to the person of interest that they were looking for.
Okay. What do you mean by that? The names?
The names that came from the GED match list
Okay.
that was given to law enforcement.
How many names were given? Do you know that you got?
I can't be certain how many.
Rough number?
Rough number 10.
So 10 people that they wanted you to go start searching the family trees.
Correct.
I'm putting it in simple terms.
Okay, yes.
Okay. And those 10 individuals, were they separate DNA profiles or do they have to be?
Yes, they're actually separate people who match the person of interest from the GED match list.
And were any of those people, those 10 people, did Foreman's name come up?
So once I built,
No, you're jumping ahead. We're gonna get there.
okay,
But you said you received 10
okay,
names. Yeah, some 10 names.
okay.
Was Foreman name part of the 10?
A surname of Foreman? No, sir.
Okay. But you had DNA?
We had DNA matches to the person of interest, yes. We had the names. Yes, sir.
Okay. You don't know how or where they got those names and matches from?
Yes, sir. Those names came from the list that.
Yeah, but I'm talking about how they determined those names and DNA. You don't know anything about the facility that gave them that information. Off around.
I do know that's where it came from.
Yeah, but you don't know how they did it or
No,
whatever.
sir.
That wasn't, and that's my point.
Okay.
You weren't involved in that.
No, sir, I was
Okay.
not involved.
And after you pointed them to 2 individuals, do you know what they did with the other 10 people that they gave you to research? Did you give them any direction or did you?
So can I explain a little bit about what I did with those, say, 10 names?
Okay,
Is I figured out how or if they matched my father-in-law to find the most recent common ancestor to build the family tree. And that's all that's done with those names.
right. And I guess my question is that after that, you didn't do anything with the other DNA that they had, or names that through DNA that they gave you?
No, sir.
Okay. After you gave them the 2 names, you didn't do anything else with this case? You didn't have any other involvement with this case after you gave them, you did your work?
I did my work.
Okay. And when did you finish that? 2001?
Yes, sir, that was in April of 2000.
Do you know when in April? Rough date, was it the end of April, beginning of April, beginning of April? Thank you very much. Pass the witness, Joe.
First thing, was it 2001 or 2021?
2020.
Okay, yeah.
My mistake.
That's okay. I just want to make sure it's clear for the record.
My mistake.
And also, you mentioned the word and you keep saying the word match.
Yes,
Okay, those are not, we're not matching people, are we? You're actually getting relationships.
correct.
Okay, and so it's kind of like my kids used to play a game where they'd hide something and you say cold, you get warmer, you get hot. And that's pretty much what you're doing with the DNA, with the DNA and the talking the family tree is you start following it until you get warmer and warmer and warmer, and then you got a direction to point. Is that correct?
That is.
Okay, I'll pass it.
May this lady be excused.
Please,
You're excused. Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
Judge, can we approach?
Yeah.
No.
All right, we again are back in the record on the state of Texas versus Clayton Foreman. The defendant and his attorney and the state's attorneys are present. At this time, it's my understanding that the defense has filed a motion to suppress warrantless search and seizure. And I believe that is an issue that the defense has asked the court to take up outside the presence of the jury. And I believe it's that time for that. Is that right? Or no?
No, it's an oral motion, Judge. I'm making to the court under 3822. In reference to the questioning or interrogation of Mr. Foreman by the ranger and the police detective in Ohio.
So what are you asking?
That any statements made in the video be suppressed because they did not follow what's set out in reference to Miranda.
In what way?
No Miranda.
I know in what Miranda directive are you saying that they didn't follow?
Well, prior to the videotaping or prior to interrogation, a person should be Mirandized. And they failed to do that before starting conversations.
You understand? Does the state understand what in particular he's focusing on?
Yes, Your Honor. He told me this morning that they were filing a motion to suppress the video statement, and I assumed it was based upon some sort of requirement of 3822. I think it was, I guess what he's saying that he wasn't Mirandized or followed the code requirements of 3822. So I understand what he's saying. Our perspective is quite significantly different than his, though.
All right, what the articulate, what is it the point you're making? Are you saying that the warnings were not timely given at a point that needed to be given?
Well, I don't think the warnings were ever given.
Mhm.
And I have a different rendition of the state that it should have been a custodial interrogation based on their purpose of being up there. And I think if you look at the video, I think it would explain a lot. We can make it roll.
Is it your contention that authorities had probable cause to arrest him at that time, and then they just went through a charade of bringing him in and letting him speak or talking to him when they should have given him warnings?
Yes.
Oh,
And
okay.
I wouldn't use charade, but yes, I think it was, they should have warned him and they brought him down for questioning.
Okay. All right. what state say?
He was not in custody. The video makes that clear. Brandon Best told him he was free to leave. In fact, at the beginning of the video, the defendant comes in, he's moving to another chair. Brandon, Ranger Best then asked him, hey, why don't you sit next to the door? Went to the door, opened the door. You can leave at any time, and made it, he was free to leave at any time. And he went through the whole conversation, ended, the statement was freely and voluntarily. And at the end of it, he walked out.
All right. Well, the whole test is whether there is custodial interrogation involved, both custody and interrogation are issues that have to be occurring simultaneously. And that subjects other rules and practice onto the table, in that someone in custody who is being interrogated has Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution, which were articulated in the Miranda versus Arizona decision, which dictated that those rights have to be expressly conveyed to a suspect or defendant when custody and interrogation are occurring. They can be in custody. They don't need a Miranda warning. They can be interrogated. If they're not in custody, a Miranda warning is not required. Here you're stating custodial interrogation was occurring.
Yes.
All right. You have a witness on this hearing so that the court can listen to a proffer of what this testimony would be, so that I can make some rulings outside the presence of the jury. Go ahead.
Could you tell the court your name and what did you do for a living?
Brandon Best, and I'm a retired Texas Ranger.
Okay.
Already sworn you in?
No, sir, you haven't.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes, Your Honor.
Please lower your hands. Please be seated, and thank you. Go ahead.
All right. Back in 2021, were you working in conjunction with Beaumont Police Department on a cold case involving the homicide of Catherine Edwards?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And had in that capacity, had you and Aaron Lewallen and Tina Lewallen developed a lead through the work of genetic genealogy?
We had.
And through that, had you picked out one of two brothers, Michael Foreman and Clayton Foreman, as two possible persons of interest?
We had.
And as y'all chose to look at Clayton Foreman for reasons we'll discuss later, but y'all chose to look at Clayton Foreman for a particular reason. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And had you and Aaron Lewallen requested the FBI office up in Ohio to verify his whereabouts and then do a trash pull on his garbage?
We did, yes, sir.
And after that, after retrieving the garbage, was that garbage forwarded to a DPS crime lab?
Yes, sir.
And as of April 28th of 21, had you received that result of that trash pull and the analysis in comparison of the DNA that was pulled from that trash pull and DNA that was recovered from the scene of Catherine Edwards?
I believe so, yes.
And at that time, did you have reason to believe that that Clayton Foreman was a suspect now in the homicide of Catherine Edwards?
We did.
And did you, the day after discovering that, did you and Aaron Lewallen go up to Ohio and to visit with, your intention was to meet and visit with the defendant Clayton Foreman?
Yes, sir.
How did you make that happen?
Travel, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office provided transportation to us to get to Ohio. Aaron, Detective Lewallen, had indeed worked through his FBI counterparts and the Clark County Sheriff's Office there to have surveillance done on the residence that we believe that Mr. Foreman lives, as well as to collect discarded trash at Mr. Foreman's residence.
Okay, and did you, after recovering the trash and getting the results from that DNA in the trash, did you and Detective Lewallen go up to Ohio to visit with the defendant?
We did.
Okay, had you previously, how did you arrange for the defendant to come to meet?
We worked through, and I'm not sure if he was an FBI task force officer like Aaron Lewallen was, but Aaron had worked with Detective Clark. I may have that name wrong, I'm sorry. He worked with the detective there at the sheriff's office to go out and to request that Mr. Foreman come to the sheriff's office of his own free will and accord to speak with authorities who were there.
Okay, and did that occur?
He did.
Okay, do you see the person you talked with? Was that on, do you recall what date that was?
April the 29th?
Yes, all right,
Yes, sir.
of 2021?
Yes, sir.
And do you see the person you talked with on April 29th of 2021 in the courtroom here today?
I do.
Could you please point to him, identify what he's wearing?
That's Mr. Foreman with a gray long sleeve shirt and khaki pants.
Your Honor, please let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
Yes, it will.
All right, and do you know how he got to the station?
I believe the detective gave him a ride.
Okay, all right. And when he arrived, was he in handcuffs or was he in custody in any way, shape, or fashion?
No, sir.
Okay. Had he ever been informed that he was under arrest or in any way?
No, sir. None.
Was he informed that he was charged with anything?
No, sir. None.
In fact, at the time when he arrived at your place, did he even know what he was coming to talk to you about?
I don't believe so. At least he didn't acknowledge any reason that that he thought he was there for anyway.
Okay. And did y'all, were y'all given access to a room to interview him at?
We were.
Okay. And was that interview recorded?
I believe there are two different recordings of that room, two different camera angles, at least inside that room. Yes, sir.
Okay. You know, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
I'm gonna hand you what's been marked as stage 116 and ask if you recognize the drive that's attached to that car.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Previous meeting with you, did you have a chance to watch the video on this drive?
I did. Yes.
Okay. And was that the video that you and Detective Lewallen and the defendant, Clayton Foreman, spoke in?
Yes, sir.
Was it a fair and accurate rendition of what occurred on April 29th of 2021?
Sometimes hard to hear, but yes, sir.
Okay, all right. For purposes of this hearing, Your Honor, I'm on tender stage 116.
For this hearing,
For this hearing.
Purpose of hearing,
Yes.
any objection?
just for this hearing, I have no objection.
All right. Yeah, it will be admitted exclusively for the purpose of this hearing for the court to make determinations necessary under law for its admissibility.
All right. Permission to start publishing it to the court, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
Just a few more minutes, moment or hand to finish it up, and we'll be ready. Go ahead, sir.
I notice the defendant is not in handcuffs
Yes, sir.
and the door is open.
Yes, sir.
Somebody gave him a bottle of water.
Yes, sir.
He had his phone?
Yes, sir.
If a person was under arrest, would that have been removed?
Absolutely.
Okay. My very little. Brand bed, maybe it was good. Yeah, yeah, quite on. I know, in particular, I know, the everyone was a lot of these departments, part of the bed with the six $900 Liberty. Officer Holman, they were, Clayton, Bernard, Foreman, for 2219. Okay, and what is your address for? 152 Southwood Avenue. Okay. Reynoldsburg, Ohio. Okay, and you have driver's license? Yep. You know, I pull it out, you know, the number. My driver's license is yeah, well.
If he had been an arrest, his life, everything on him would have been inventoried and put into property. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm blind. Sorry. Bernard Foreman, like I said, 1572 Gospel Avenue, Reynoldsburg, Ohio, zip code 43068. You're only 5'11". You're taller than that. Your driver's license number looks like PT 569585, an Ohio driver's license, or B 25089. That's the ticket number. And you wear glasses, Class D license. What's your social security number? 454-29-8033. You must have been born in the South. Louisiana. Okay. So it is 3:19 p.m. Today is April the 29th, 2021. Now the policeman that asked you to come up here, the two guys that were out there, one in front of the other, told them they were investigating a crime, and they asked you if we come up here. And you said, absolutely you would, no problem. I'm not putting words in your mouth. That's right. You said you would come up here and talk to them. So
Pause it.
you did.
So what you did just there is you just confirmed with the defendant that he was up there voluntary, been asked to come up to give information, and he voluntarily came up, and that's what he told you, correct?
Yes, sir. Just making sure the other policemen had followed our instructions, that it was completely voluntary. Got him to confirm that with us. Yes.
Okay, all right, proceed.
Listen, they didn't want to like scare you or freak you out. There were two guys from Texas that were here. We're here about a crime, and we'll get into that. We'll talk to you about that and what we're here for. But we want you to know that, as a matter of fact, why don't we trade you right here? Grab that door, open it. Grab that door. Okay, close it. So you see the door is not locked. The door is not locked. We're doing the same thing. We're asking you to do with us about a crime that we're investigating. Okay? You don't have to talk to us at all. You can leave at any time. I know we're inside kind of a weird complex here, but that door is open. You don't have to talk to us at any time. You're not under arrest. You're not in trouble. Nothing. Okay? Would you like to stand and talk to us? I understand you don't know what it's about, but are you okay with us talking to you at least? Right? You can talk to us. Great.
Okay, pause it. So you went to the trouble of switching places with the defendant towards the door. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You allowed him to be closer to the door.
Yes, sir.
And what was your purpose in that?
Just to continue that, letting him know that he was free to leave and that I wouldn't be blocking the door, and neither would Aaron, that he could get up and walk out the door at any time. Demonstrated the door was unlocked. I think he checked the door to see if it was unlocked and even had him shut the door himself.
Okay, all right. And then you confirmed with him that he was not under arrest, he was not in custody, and he could leave at any time.
Yes, sir.
All right, proceed.
So what we're here about is we're cold case investigators. Aaron is a task force officer with the FBI. I'm a Texas Ranger. Have you ever met a Ranger before? No. How long have you been gone from Texas? 14 months. Okay, so you left in 2007. Okay. Did you work when you were in Texas? Yes. What did you do there? My last 21 years of bill collector. Okay, telephone stuff. Yes. All right. Foreman? Different company. I worked for a company in, well, I worked for Condo Finance in Beaumont. Con? Okay. And then I worked for a company in Houston called, University Fidelity. Okay. And here did you work? I'm an Uber guy. Oh, okay. So there was a black car at your house. We were there with you, Jeff. It was a nice black car. It was great. That's your car. Just registering your name. Who do you live with there? My fiance, Teresa Brewer. Okay. Whose house is it? That's hers. Y'all remodel? No. Okay. It's on your house, huh? That's usually kind of a sign of a remodel. No, I wanted to get rid of what it's done. Okay. I got it. Does she work? Yeah. Okay. What does she do? She works for the Take Back. Teresa Brewer. Yeah. BREWER. TERE. Okay. I didn't ask you this. Do you have a cell phone? Yes. What do you know your number? 614-571-5721. And that's your cell phone? Yes. What carrier do you use? Verizon. And we've got Verizon online up here. It seems to be working pretty good up here. Is that the only phone that you have? Yes. One telephone? Do you have a landline? No. No landline. Okay. So what we do is we look at old cases, obviously cold case. If you watch any cold case TV shows, 48 hours, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. So you probably understand a little bit about what we do. So we look at cold cases. We look at what detectives and officers did back in the day on cold cases. We try to tell them, hey, what were they missing? What did they not do? And normally what that is they didn't talk to enough people. Normally in these cases, that's what we find is because they were limited in their manpower or whatever reason, the internet is denied. All of that, they missed out on talking with people. So what we do is we look at these cases. I hate to have you radio film. The case is always you have to close and just shut down until they're solved. Well, what we do is we look back and we say, okay, where did that crime occur? From where that crime occurred, who all got talked to? How far out did they go around the crime scene, the victim's house? What family members did they talk to? What friends did they talk to? How far did they go back? Did they go into college? Did they go back to high school. They go back to these people's elementary school, whatever that crime is, we look at, and we look at a variety of different crimes. Well, how far did they go back? So the crime that we're looking at is the murder of Mary Catherine Edwards. And we found that, she and her sister, I think it was, and she was murdered in 1995. So we look back, hey, who were their friends? Who were they, whatever? And we found a picture of a wedding picture that she and her sister, Allison, were actually in your wedding. Right. And 1982. Okay. Did anybody ever talk to you? We couldn't find any interviews with you. We couldn't find any interviews of your, I'm assuming you're not married to her. You got a girlfriend here. Right. No, Diana. Diana, well, her name was Diana. Diana, okay. But we couldn't find that even Diana got involved too. Do you ever remember anyone ever coming to you or to Diana about that crime? Were you aware of the crime? No. You didn't know that the crime occurred? No. Okay. You didn't know that, Catherine Edwards was murdered? No. You did not. So when you leave, well, I left Houston in 2007. You left Beaumont? I was in Beaumont. I left Beaumont. 99, I think that's the one. Okay. Well, you were living there when the crime occurred. So it happened in 95. And 95. Yeah, you do remember what I'm talking about though, right? Yeah, when Catherine and Alice, I think they were bridesmaids for Mike's wife. That's right. They were friends with her. So I lived in Fort Arthur. Left Fort Arthur, went to Baytown. Then I came back to Beaumont. I guess in 98, moved back to Houston in 2000. Then moved up here in 2000. Okay. So your ex-wife, Dalio. Right. I don't know her last name. Okay. When you were married to her, did y'all have much acquaintance with them, or was it just like a high school friend thing where, hey, when young girls get married, they invite all their old friends to be bridesmaids? That was, yeah, they just what happened. Okay. You didn't know these girls? Not really. I knew their brother, Lum. Okay. Okay. But that's about it. Lum actually passed away. About I read that okay. Okay. Yeah. Somebody posted that get that. Yeah. I think you pretty unexpected deal too. I think you're fairly healthy. Just unexpected. You would know that I was. Because I graduated in 78. I graduated in 79 or 80. Okay. And my brother graduated in 80. Were you friends with him? No, not really. Not with Lum. Okay. Did you have any kids? I had a son. Okay. But he passed away. 2005. No daughters, no other children anywhere. No one child. Go back to the Edwards family. You knew Lum. Were y'all in classes together? How much older? You graduated? I graduated in 78. Okay. And he might have graduated in 49 or 8. Okay. My brother graduated in 1980. So he and your brother would have been probably in the same grade. I don't know what year Lum graduated. Okay. I think the girls graduated with my wife in 81. Okay. So that's them being in your wedding. How long did you stay married to her? Miss Delia. 11. We were together for 14, but we were married for 11 years. Okay. Yeah, with each other before or after divorce? Kind of a weird question, but y'all dated and then you got married? No. Okay. So we got together. I was on freshman in college. She was Philadelphia. Where did you live in 95? Do you think you were living in Beaumont, or do you think you were living in Fort Arthur? No, I think I was living in the west side of Houston. Okay. In 1995. So Creek Place Drive, something like that. Puddles? Beaumont at all during that time? Sometimes. You have family there, friends there? My mom is Beaumont. Okay. Your dad? My dad is gone. Okay. Okay. She's very old. And your mom passed away? About? 10 or 11 years ago. So 2000-ish. Yeah. 2010-ish, not far. Yeah, I think 2010 or 2011. Okay. In Beaumont? In Beaumont. January 1st. Because you're living out on the west side of Houston, but you come back to Beaumont to visit some any other friends? Well, sometimes. I mean, other friends. Who else would you come to Beaumont to visit? I know Beverly, Agner. Where's that? They were talking. Okay. They still live there. Do you have any contact with anybody at all? Yeah. It would probably be the. No, they live in Tyler, Texas. Okay. Then, Pat and Darlene O'Neill. He's a teacher in Beaumont. And there's, Rick and Julie, Rick Lewallen, still in UNT, still I think it is. And, these are policies that, the PA, okay. Beaumont, or you in Beaumont? Yeah, all these people live in Beaumont, except for Mr. Chestnut. Okay. Not Howard County, just Howard proper. I think so. He used to live in Jasper. He was, he ran a car dealership in Jasper. And then he lost his job and now he's like all state agent in Tyler. Excuse me, I can talk to you. Mr. Mama. Oh, what happened? I had him on hold. Oh, okay. Okay. So are these people that would have known the Edwards or is that separate? Not in your knowledge. Well, and Beverly might have. Okay. Because Beverly graduated with my place. Okay. Diana. So that's how Diana and I met through Beverly. And Beverly is Al's. Yes, sir. And they're all over the time. So in the 1995 time frame, you've already moved to Houston. You maybe come back once in a while. Not maybe you come back once in a while with your mom, from these friends, etc. But you weren't living there at the time. No. Where was the last place you lived at Beaumont? Do you remember your address? Or even what street? My first house is on Main. Okay. I don't know. That would have been 81 when you got married? No, we got married in 82. Bought the house. 84. Okay. And then we lived off of 105. Some townhouses. When you get off the interstate, 69. You go 105, and there was a convenience store down there, and then the townhouse on the right hand side. Bedford. I think it's Bedford now. That might be right. Well, that's how the town really exploded. You get them back there. It's amazing what else. I haven't even. Last time I went to Beaumont was my class meeting. My 4-year class meeting. So I was about 2, coming up 3 years ago. So, on Mary Trash Jack, didn't know her well. Did you ever visit with her at all? Wedding night only would have been the only time you've seen her? Okay. Never dated. Never dated. These are dumb questions. I'm sorry I asked you. Never obviously had sex with her. No. Never. Did you ever go in her house at all? Any house that she ever lived in? No. Okay. What about her sister? Did you ever date her sister? No. They were identical twins, so I could confuse. Never with her sister. Never had sex with her sister. Never dated anyone in that family. Not at all. Okay. And so where she was the address where she was killed, what is that? One year or about a month ago, on the Navy Drive. Does that ring a bell with you at all? He lived in a condo, 2 stories, that thing where there's multiple side by side like that. Where, I don't know where that's at. Yeah, where Major is. I know where Major's not. Yeah. So let's see, good left, Major and left, that first intersection is Major. Then it's like some townhomes and then. Is it on the right, and then more townhomes? Is it close to one of the high schools? Yeah, going back totally. Did you ever live close to there? No. Not that, the man, you never lived anywhere in that? No. 1 block, 2 block, 3 block, 4 block, 5, everywhere that you've lived has been miles away from there? Probably closer back in, when we sold our house, we left Bedford, we lived off Atlantis Road, close to the Catholic Church. You agree with me? Go on across the thing, you. Same thing, yeah, right there on the line between 3 and 6, that means our traffic has to go all the time, jump out of the it's right there across, in front of our station. Okay. But there's a lot of religious stuff in there still, and you just like, there's their doctors, and still kind of look at all that, the Dancer Academy, something right there. There's some nicer Adobe looking apartments on one side, and then the other side got a bunch of feral clusters of apartments. Yeah, I know, we're talking about it's pretty over there, cool area. So what about, let me back up just a little bit. What high school did you graduate from? Forest Park. And that's all 4 years you're there? Yes, sir. Okay. Junior high or middle school, whatever, we call it junior high. Junior high. It was more and more grades. What grades are those? 7 and 8? Yeah, because I went to the elementary school 1 through 6. Okay. Which elementary? LaPoint Elementary. So once now that we're talking about Mary Catherine Edwards and we're talking about her being in your wedding, thinking back now, because you've had a time while we're sitting here. Do you remember them from school? Do you remember the girls from school? Not really, because they were freshmen. When you were a senior. Okay. You remember long, but y'all weren't friends. Yeah. You were on the same group. Right. Like I said, the only reason why I didn't quit was to my wife. Because I think they were friends. They must have been friends. Because she was the one that invited them to be in the wedding. Yeah. You got a big wedding. We had a big wedding. Where at? The church. Okay. Are you Catholic now? Yes. Practicing, you go all the time, or? Not really. When the last time I went to church? 5 or 6, maybe 5 years ago. I'm not a Catholic. You're not Catholic either. So we're not Catholic. I'm Methodist. So we're Catholic. People like that. Y'all do confession, right? And I know that's always a question that I hear, at least on TV. When was your last confession? Do you remember the last time you went to a confession? I 94. Back in Beaumont, then I guess, right? Right, with Clyde with Elliot. Oh, okay. Is he your ex-wife's leading or is that his name over there? Oh, okay. Okay. So he's got a pretty good. And I think he's on 6 times very familiar. Yeah. Would he be pretty old or would he be young or pretty? I don't know how old he is. The last time I saw him, he did my mom. Okay. And how old is he? He did my son. Okay. Okay. So, we're looking for connections. We're looking for how you would have known Catherine. The weddings. Just the wedding. So, the detectives back in the day, they focused on people that were in our media life. Killers and dating and she was a teacher, so focused on a lot of teachers, interviewed a whole bunch of people and boyfriends, basically, we can do that. But they're really just kind of things focused, I guess, around those people that were close to like almost like first generation. They didn't really go back in their college years or possibly we have kind of stumbled across you in our life. We were going through the funeral registry, we signed the funeral, and we stumbled across your wife's name and started digging around. But in the family act this had done years ago, and the person works with dad, the person was in high school and that kind of stuff. They started deep diving into this and kind of find people there. See if they having a good release. Right. You can go to the funeral? No. That's right. I didn't even know. Right. this is where we're at, and fortunately, people we work for and trying to talk people transform. I understand. So. Not knowing, I mean, not even knowing that he died, my next question to you would be, like, do you think that they something like this, who would have killed her, but you didn't even know, I wouldn't have really told you today, you were not living. Right. So I have no idea. Because your only contact was with. Y'all never went to like dinner with your wife and her, you know. It was married, not that I ever, he wasn't married, okay. So no like dinner party at your house that you would have came to. Not that I can recall. How was he not married? Years after that, did you go out with him? That's true. What year did you and Diane split up? We got married in 82, so he's 93. We split up. I'm sorry, I think that I was married after that. We split up, both. Oh, okay. Tell us about that. That's pretty, you remember that pretty well. Well, Dallas Cowboys were playing. In 1993? Yes. Yeah, probably. I remember. Yeah, they, I had to keep it on my wife. So, coffee or whatever it came. Who had you choose also with? Drilling Deb. I wasn't managed to go to one part out to Texas. And it was a customer of mine, Debbie, Robinson. What grocery store? Used to be Giant Food on Gill Circle. Probably down where we didn't down. There's a longer, I guess. There's a park across the street from the store. There's a wire across the street. And that was 40 years ago. And now I was back in like the 79. Oh, okay, good. And you were talking about college. Where did you go to college? My first year at my days. Oh, okay. You play football or something? No. Everybody from Texas goes to they play football. No, my cousin played basketball. Oh, okay. And then I went to Lamar. And then I dropped out. And then I went to work for them. Where'd you make it? This one. I've got 87 hours. I went back to school in 2013 or 14. Let's take all our classes in education. Okay. I feel like I'm going to 3 and a half more hours in education. I've got 87 hours. Okay. You're still attending now? And? No, I haven't been in the last 4 or 5 years. Okay. Still business, or you were still majoring in business psychology? Okay. Okay. So, college, I remember where Catherine went to college. Did she go to college with you? Okay. Yeah, I went to Lamar, my first semester on the magnesia, I wrote then. I ran the kind of like 8. Then back to Lamar, I guess for 2 semesters maybe. 79. Okay. Because I was on the vertical in 90. What did you do wrong? Public development, 7 years. Like 4 on your shoulders, talking, or whatever, not talking, but. I don't know, talk, okay. Alright. So you didn't go to college with Catherine or with Allison? Well, they were really behind me. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. And, I was working at Big November 1980. Okay. So no, again, I know I'm just beating this thing, I'm sorry about that, but we, you understand, it's 1 years ago, we try to find just any connection, anything like that we can, they can do. We go somewhere else, you know what I mean? Like, hey, wait, I remember, I went to, I happened to be at the bar here a little time. He was dating so back then, and you know what, I remember that. So, nothing like that has kicked in your head, we're talking about college. No, I went to college in the 80s. Okay. And I think I graduated in 81 from high school. No memories that I picked up on high school, junior high, elementary, the wedding. I think they might have been in the Grogan again. Okay. Good. Geraldton. Maybe, I'm not sure. It's well, yeah, no, so, like, we're getting our net bigger here. That's what I ordered, guys, that's what we're here for. Never had dinner party at your house that you came to. Never went to a dinner party at her house. No. For sure on that. You never went into her house, for sure on that. As far as you remember, you don't even remember the house or seeing the house or anything like that? I don't even know where that is. Okay. But after parents described it to you, they didn't do anything for a while in that area, not even that much. Well, I mean, I remember the high school. Okay. But I don't know anything other than that. Then, where else would you maybe have bumped into her at work? You know, if you're calling from a disco, you never had to see her come in the store during those years that you were working there, stocking and store to store. She all year if there was a teacher doing work there, kids were there for my mom worked there for 25 years, but I was quick to do there. She was rented an apartment in South Asian apartment with a good intentions. She rented an apartment. Like right there in that future. Right. Yeah, like she first started out in ER. She ran that when people were checking it for the emergency room. Yeah. She would do all that. Checking the insurance and stuff like that. When she retired. My mom. She died. I think it was January 1st, 2011. So she's been retired for a little while. 5 years, roughly. My mom was 69 when she died. I think she retired when she was 62. She might have retired 62. Probably retired when she was for security or fancy. I think so. I think so. She did. Was there anything that you had? Thing you could fill with your job memory? Is there anything there? Do you run with four flights? Yeah, it's like good, kind of fun. Yeah, that are. You did, or I'm going to be on your limit to your end. The church, well, there's a church that just kind of this kind of and it's class. Like I said, was like an 80. When we lived over there, it was 84 to 87. So this is major draw rate. This man, and now all right there will be the yeah, you know, the high school. That's relatively short distance from where you're living. Back in that country, so kind of well, they're living in that place out of Lodge. Yes, it was no, they're trying to think. We bought our house in 84 or 83, 84. Lived there in 87 till 87. Then we moved to College Station from 87 to about 89, 90. Then that's when we moved back in 1990. That's when we moved to an apartment. Okay. So that was 90. I think so. I mean, that's a long time ago. And how long did you live there? Until we got divorced. Yeah, 93, whatever I moved out of there, 90. So. You got tired of that part of that. You and your wife and your son. If you remember at your wedding, if you like give a hug to the bridesmaid. How many were there? Brothers, Larry, Frank, Ernie. Our brother, Jupiter. Might have been, no. Especially for you. So, it's for all. You remember who the others were? Sisters, maybe or two sisters. Maybe Beverly. Probably Beverly, so that's 4 or 5. You know, I don't know if you told me to write them on her sister, you said. It might have been the end. Yes, David and Kathy. Kathy. Yeah. Their last name was Dally. Well, Ian is now, Anderson, I think it's you don't remember the old one? That was, that was 1981. It was 1982. 82. Like maybe 1 quarter. January 10th. And never went to the house, no loud, people in that on the house here. Never had dinner parties. Did y'all go out and dance or anything? Not if you had a cabin with you and your wife, or y'all dancers or parties. What was the club back at the bars back then? Don't even remember what they were. The Palace. Yeah, they had the Palace, the Keg. I've heard that one. The Keg was over on a little more, yeah, I was going to pay that. Where all the college used to go to the Cactus Lounge. There's no railroad. Railroad Avenue, close to where the old line runs used to be. Clever, where that lady was. The Palace was there forever. I do remember the Palace was open for. Yeah, there were a few times before I was there. But you know, that Corey, or whatever his name was, that was Lady Longley. Lady Longley, I remember getting t-shirts from there, that was before. But after Lady Longley was that Corey. Your mom, but not just, hopefully not. Yeah, you could go there, that was a big one, those guys, narrow gates. What is it? Deputy. It's called Deputy, so go do it. It's a really big one back in the 80s, and there's one on ITM that I heard about. They had like 4 stories from all that here, so really one on ITM, back here, with that trouble there. What's your phone call, man? Yeah. But no clubbing, you and your wife aren't clubbers. No. When was your son born? 84. Okay. Well, 82 to 84, y'all didn't have any children, but y'all weren't clubbers, y'all didn't do that. What did y'all do socially? I got a friend, Alan and Bev, Rich and Julie, Abner, and my friend Larry, and his wife at the time, Robin. You grew up in Beaumont. Beaumont. You're how old? 61. Did you know I knew where Cindy Ball, I think her name was. Cindy Ball? Yeah. That's Cindy Fine. Yeah, yeah. You know, she passed away a couple years ago. Yeah, I knew that. She was on my Facebook. Yes. She's my last partner. My last partner when she retired. Super, super late. Love her. Yeah. Love her, yeah. I still her husband. Yeah, I love. I've been friends with a lot of police officers. Oh, Kyle Brown. Yeah, he passed away too. Yeah. So, yeah. I'm very free team. He worked for the Beaumont meeting. He was still up for I heard him get the dispatcher one meeting. I don't recognize anything, but he went one for the Texas patrol and patrol. I think I recognized him just for the no, boss, what's his name? Then please. Yeah, go with it. He was 15 now. And prior to that, he was a captain over parole investigation, and now he's over. He's broken down his plate. He had any control investigation and patrol, and then admin and like rescue operation, stuff like that. And so, your friends all old school guys. I know a bunch of these guys, and I haven't been around there that long anyway, but yeah, through the, I know I got around, I guess. Yeah, did you know that years ago? Yeah, a couple years ago now. Started doing it, doctor line. Didn't interview? Yeah, I don't interview. Good enough. Just started dropping away. Yeah, we played a little bit of baseball. I will do that. My brother, what's your tattoo? Mike Knowles. Yeah. But where'd you get that? My mom. Any others? Nothing. Tell me again what you're doing now for work, Uber. You're doing just Uber. Now, that has been laid off what from doing fellowship on the. Okay. They don't care about that money anymore. No, they're on furlough until September, October. Yeah. How's the Uber business? Okay, it's like pretty decent money with it. 800 to 1,000 a week. Wow. How many hours do you have to work? 35 hours a week. So, that's what we're going to work. Yeah. For our next job. You work whatever you want to do. You just turn your phone on and you get hit if you want, and you get yourself. I guess that's what it is. I'll take this one. Yeah. I've used it for a couple of times. I live in the country, so well, in the city. I've used it a couple of times. It's handy and saves a lot of money. So don't do that. We here, in town, get out of an airport somewhere and you go from the airport to the hotel. It's 5 blocks away and costs $32 and the Uber $4. So, that, and you feel like money, but glad to hear that, they're not starving you to death. No, right now, because of the pandemic. Yeah. They were very significant in progress. Yeah. Yeah. There's no reason not to take the same thing and cost you for a beer to take an Uber. Okay. They have a big background investigation process, or how does that work? They run background 7 years back. Okay. Well, if there's anything, looking at the pictures, it's that jogging number for you. Football wedding, yeah. That's it. No. Have you ever seen her case? And a lot of these cases get highlighted on BBQ. And I haven't seen it, but my understanding is like a year and a half ago, her case is highlighted on BBQ, which is an unsolved. I mean, it's something new. Yeah. Your crime is so. Yeah. Possible everything now. What's the lady's name? Pretty blonde head lady. She has a lot of Katie. Not Katie. Oh, anything. Oh, that's not it either. Came from the church. Follow on has a big one. That's a cold case. I say, oh, how it happened, or no, never see that. Do you watch any cold case though? What's the first 40 hours? Okay. Well, those aren't cold. Those would have to be called within 4 days. You're still rolling. Very long. I was like, month ago, I got a negative clock. So they were past that 48 and that's reality right there. Yeah, that is true. Well, one of the, it's going to be done. There's absolutely nothing that jogs your memory. The only time you ever really remember seeing her after high school years were the extra wedding. Never went to a dinner party with her. Party, partying at bars, partying in clubs. Never dated her for 100% on that. Never went to her house, 100% on that. Never had sex with her, 100% on that. Never, the same thing go for her sister with the drug animals when she never dated her sister, never partied with her sister, never anything. Just one other thing, this is the 90s. That was the 90s, okay, drugs, big deal. 80s, you're a product of the 80s coming into the 90s. You're divorced, I'm guessing you're probably single at the time, 95-ish. I've been for a long time. Okay. Drug use, we don't care to that. Never been a weed smoker, coke user. marijuana 8 or 10 times, like in the high school days. Okay. Nothing, man. No. And again, I'm not doing it back, that was the 80s, so that's always been. Yeah, I've never been in or down on marijuana. You know, cocaine on it, but no, the psychedelic or the LSD, thing of that kind of thing. So nothing that would cause you to lose your memory. In 95, were you extremely sick at that time? Were you taking medication? Did you have cancer? Did you stay in hospital for an extended period of time? 95? 94, 95, 96, let's say. No, I went to the hospital, in the 2000s, before I could see. You know, I was 40 years old first time I was in hospital. I had, I've been talking a lot, I've been asking a lot of questions. Aaron has filled in, he's taken notes, etc. We want to give you a chance to say anything that you might want to say or tell us, hey, have you thought of this? So we'll give you the floor. I don't know anything. Okay. No. Not at all. No, nothing you would lead us to, no, you know, people to look at. Yeah, I haven't lived in Texas for 14 years. Well, you know, that was 26 years ago. I said, I think I was living in Houston, Texas. And what are your friends like? Clay. Do you mind if I call you Clay? Yeah. Clay, I'm gonna level with you. Okay, right here now, I want you to hear me real close. What we do now and what they did in 1995, because of technology and advances in science, are totally different. So, do you understand DNA? Mm-hmm. And do you understand how DNA works? Do you understand you're made of DNA? Right. He's made of DNA, not made of. And that, unless you and I are brothers or cousins or anything, or I'm your dad or et cetera, we're not going to have to fake DNA. There's a likelihood of our DNA being the same in this room is not extremely rare. There are this set number of likelihood of this wallet having, now I've got my DNA on it, but there's a thing called who got both DNA. So I've touched you all at one time, and you've touched it hundreds of times. Whose DNA is most likely to be on there? Oh, mine. For sure yours. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what I'm going to tell you is that crime scene was processed really well. But in 1995, as we like to say in police work, we hadn't invented DNA yet. But by that, you know what I mean? We didn't understand it. It was in its very infancy at the time. And I'm no scientist, man. I've got a 2-year degree in criminal justice. I didn't even have that science class that I remember. So I don't know a lot about science. But what I do know is about DNA and about how DNA works in placing someone in a crime scene. And what I'm going to tell you right now is your DNA was on Catherine's bed and was inside Catherine. Okay. I mean, I don't know how I got there, but there's only one way for it to get there. Okay. And that's by you putting it there. And it's freedom. It's firm. And it's yours. Okay. Do you understand that? Do you understand the implications of that? The day that she died, the night that she died, your DNA is in her and your DNA is on her bedspread. Your DNA is in her vagina and your DNA is in her rectum and her blood. And you're sitting here telling me, you understand it. You understand that? Yes. And you understand your DNA is all over that wallet. And my DNA is on the wallet. There's nobody else's DNA that was inside her. And there's nobody else's DNA that was on that comforter on that bed. And the only way for that to have gotten there would have been for you putting it there. Now, I don't want you to say anything right this second. I want you to think about the next words that come out of your mouth. I want you to think very hard about that. You're a smart guy. There's no doubt about it. You have a great vocabulary. You are articulate. You have college. You have high school. You live life, you're 51 years old. You live in a nice home. Okay? Your DNA is entered. Your DNA is on it. That got there one way. We know how I got there, added and put it there, and that's you. But we don't know the story behind how I got there. There's two people that know that story. You're one of them, and she's the other. And you can't call. What I ask you is, now, be honest with us completely. And tell us, how did that happen? I'm not gonna say anything. Somebody need an attorney now. Probably need one, or you do need one. If you're saying I did that, then I might need an attorney to talk to. That's up to you. If you want an attorney, you can get an attorney. That's absolutely fine. It either. We don't hold that against you, anything like that. You're here voluntarily. You get to walk out of that door right now. You can, or whenever you want to, you can walk out there right now. We're giving you that shot. Tell us your side. But if you want to not call, if you want an attorney, we're good with that too. And that's up to you there. Understand? That's right. You have to tell me completely what route you're gonna take. I'm getting an attorney. You want an attorney? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all we got then. We're gonna let you walk out of the door like we told you. I'll help you reach back to these guys. Keep going. Do you have any questions for us? No. You sure? Yeah. Okay. We'll, I'll watch the more, you know, yeah, like stuff. It's forward. Forward. Know what time you have? Yeah.
Wait,
Throughout the whole interview, he was free to leave at any time.
Yes, sir. And seemingly it's, at least in my opinion, watching the video again now for about the fourth or fifth time, he was very relaxed, unusually relaxed during the interview, even when confronted with it. Was never, never seemed upset about anything until he asked to leave.
And from his perspective, he wasn't charged or under arrest as far as you could tell.
As far as I can tell, no, sir.
And shortly after he left that room, he left voluntarily, but shortly after he left the room, then he was arrested.
Correct, yes.
But up until the point he left that door, he wasn't under arrest and he had no idea he was going to be arrested.
No, sir. I believe he walked out first as a matter of fact in front of us.
Okay.
And I don't even believe we had our firearms on as a part of that, I guess, lack of intimidation, Your Honor. Just we tried to make it as calm and cool as it was.
Okay. Seemed like a conversation.
Yes, sir. Sure.
I'm gonna pass the witness for the sheriff.
Ranger, this occurred on April 29th of 2021, correct?
Yes, sir.
Prior to that date, on April 28th of 2021, you all secured an arrest warrant in Jefferson County.
Yes, sir.
And the arrest warrant was for murder, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the person that you wanted to arrest for murder was Clayton Foreman.
Yes, sir.
You know what judge issued that arrest warrant? By chance?
I don't know, sir. I can't remember.
But it was a judge.
Say again?
It was a judge.
Yes, sir.
You as part of the arrest warrant, from your experience, you have to provide a probable cause affidavit.
Yes, sir.
So it's beyond really probable cause. You have strong facts that you've presented now to a judge or a magistrate
Yes, sir.
that says, we believe we have enough information that he's not a suspect anymore, but he needs to be arrested for this.
Yes, sir.
And that's what you and Officer or Detective Lewallen basically did when you went to get the warrant.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when you left here and flew on Jefferson County's plane, you had warrant in hand.
Yes, sir.
When you asked the police officers to in Ohio to bring in Mr. Clayton, you had warrant in hand with the purpose of arresting.
Yes, sir.
And he came in and talked to you, and we've heard it. You said that he was free to go, right?
Yes, sir.
But he wasn't actually free to go. Ultimately, he was not leaving that police station because you had an active warrant in his name for murder.
Yes, sir.
So when you talked to him in this video, you knew that you had to arrest him and he wasn't leaving that room because of the warrant you procured the day before.
Yes, sir.
Nothing further, Judge.
Just to be clear, he did leave that room voluntarily. He wasn't arrested until after he left that room.
I think we got all the way around the corner, as a matter of fact, a pretty big police station there. We walked, I would say the distance from at least here to outside the courtroom and maybe around the corner. We made a little ways outside. From the same direction he came in, he was walking out.
From the defendant's perspective, he had no idea he was about to be arrested.
I don't believe so. No, sir.
All right.
Ranger, you did.
Yes, sir.
When you left Jefferson County, you knew what you all were going to do.
Yes, sir.
Nothing
Anything else?
further this witness, Shera.
Oh, okay. Is this man temporarily released?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh. Your excuse, sir.
Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Burbank, where is your motion?
It's not, Judge, it's an oral motion.
It was an oral motion.
Yes.
And restate it, please.
Well, I believe it violates Code of Criminal Procedure 3822. That at the time of the interview, what I want to call an interrogation, that the police, he was not merely a suspect, he had an arrest warrant. They had previously, on the day before, created a warrant for arrest for murder, articulating specific facts, which raised to the level that a magistrate or a judge signed a warrant for his arrest. So it wasn't just merely a conversation. This is basically what I would categorize as a backdoor way of getting someone to testify when they know in real life that they wouldn't be able to question him if they walked in and said, hey, you are a suspect in a murder and we need to read you your rights, which are usually the case, especially in videos. Because it went beyond, or at that point was beyond just mere suspicion or for investigative purposes. They had already had the warrant issued and he wasn't free to leave. They knew that, and when they told him that he was free to leave, they knew he wasn't free to leave, so they weren't speaking the truth to him. So they basically were talking to him after whatever their story was, that they wanted just to look and see what he had. So we believe that it is a violation of his constitutional rights and the protection under the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure.
All right, response?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm gonna cite Shiflett versus State, 732 Southwest Second, 622, a Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, 1985 decision that states if either the custodial or interrogation predicates are not met, Article 3822 does not apply. In this case, it's our position that he was not in custody at the particular time the interview was. I additionally cite U.S. Supreme Court Stansbury versus California, 511 U.S. 318, 1994 U.S. Supreme Court decision. A person is in, quote, custody only if a reasonable person would believe that she has been deprived of her freedom to a degree associated with formal arrest. So the perception of custody is from the perspective of the defendant. Additionally, I'd like to cite Court of Criminal Appeals decision 625 Southwest 3rd 162 Texas Court of Criminal Appeals delivered June 30th 2021. The officer's knowledge of probable cause must be manifested to the suspect, and custody is established only if the manifestation of probable cause combined with other circumstances would lead a reasonable person to believe she is under arrest, under restraint to a degree associated with an arrest. The evidence is irrefutable that from the perspective of the defendant, he wasn't under arrest. He was free to go at any particular time. At the end, he did choose to leave, and subsequent to that, he was arrested. The mindset of the police officer is irrelevant to that sort of determination.
Anything else?
Well, I would just add, finally, it is relevant if they know what they were going to do and spoke untruth to a defendant trying to get them to talk and to interrogate him. As in this part saying he was free to go when he heard from the ranger right there that he wasn't leaving at the time they had an arrest warrant.
The U.S. Supreme Court and the Court of Criminal Appeals disagrees with Mr. Burbank's rendition of the law.
All right, let's figure this out, what the law really says. And statements made by individuals who were suspects or not suspects, but who, or people who may be involved in an investigation. Their statements are not deemed voluntary unless, if they are in custody and they are being interrogated, and the warnings that we call the Miranda warnings, but they're articulated in Article 38.22 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. Those two factors, custody and interrogation, must be present for the warnings to be required, or statements are not admissible by the people who are giving those statements. They are deemed involuntary. All right, there's not a debate that there's an interrogation going on. That's not debate. It becomes whether it's custodial or not. And what constitutes custody? It's been made very clear by the Supreme Court in the United States, as well as the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, which is our highest criminal court, appeals court in this land. There are 4 situations that the courts have all stated might constitute custody. And they've also stated numerous times that this is not necessarily the limits of what may constitute custody, because all of these situations are circumstance-based, and the courts have been wise enough to know that future circumstances may require additional categories of what may constitute custody or may not constitute custody. But these are the four basic ones that we're dealing with as of this time in our law. One, when a suspect is physically deprived of his freedom of action in any significant way. It's very clear that the defendant in this case, the man who was brought in for the interrogation, the defendant was certainly made as comfortable as you can get in an investigative interrogation situation. The officers, the two officials speaking with him were cordial, polite, straightforward, and told him that he was invited to speak with law enforcement. It was his decision whether he wanted to speak or not. The door was unlocked. He was not, and they even opened the door for him. He was not under arrest. He was free to leave at any time. And they asked if he would voluntarily speak with him, and he did. He expressed a voluntary, his intent was voluntary, and it was not under duress in any way. So, number one, that in this situation, he was not in custody based upon the first factor of the four, because he was not physically deprived of his freedom of action in any way. Number two, when a law enforcement officer tells the suspect that he cannot leave, there was never such a statement made. It was made clear he could leave at any time during the course of the interrogation. And at the end, the defendant, in this case, who was being interrogated, exercised his right, his option that was given to him to leave, and he did. He was allowed to leave. So that was not custody. The third situation that could constitute custody, when law enforcement officers create a situation that would lead a reasonable person to believe that their freedom of movement had been significantly restricted. And again, under these circumstances, that didn't apply. The defendant was even offered, I think, water or something. He was free to leave at any time. And the length of this interrogation was how long, please?
52 minutes.
Say that again.
52 minutes.
It was between 50 and 55 minutes. So 50, almost 53 minutes, let's say, for the record. Almost 53 minutes in length, and at no time does this court note until the end of this, when the defendant was told some statements by law enforcement that he didn't make a significant response to, except, well, I think I need a lawyer, words to that effect, and they allowed him to leave without further statements and questioning upon his request to leave. So up until that point in time, there was no situation that would lead a reasonable person to believe that their freedom was in jeopardy of being significantly restricted. And in this case, it was the environment was one with an open door, and he was the closest one to the door. He could have exercised that at any time. But all of that being said, it all boils down to the fourth one. And the courts have stated what may constitute custody is when there is probable cause to arrest and law enforcement officers do not tell the suspect that he is free to leave. With respect to that category, the courts have explained that the officer's belief that probable cause exists must be manifested to the suspect. What does that mean? State, and then I want to hear what the defense says.
If they were going to make it clear to him that he was under arrest or unfree to leave, and they repeatedly throughout that interview told him he was free to leave at any time. And if they had to manifest the probable cause, that's when they tell him why he's under arrest and then he's not free to leave, then that would be manifesting it, at least from my perspective. They did not do that. That's none of the requirements of 4 have been met. He was not told, he was told the exact opposite.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's from Ranger Bess and Detective Lewallen, they portrayed that he was free to leave at any particular time. And he exercised it from his perspective. And that's the important test, is that in that 4th prong is what does he perceive? And he perceived that he was free to leave, and he did so.
How long was he left free when he left the room?
Almost immediately when he left, he turned around, according to Ranger Bess, he said he walked down the hallway and turned around the corner and left. But at that point, the interview was over.
No, when was he arrested? How long?
You
From
can hear it
that-
on- You can hear it on the tape.
From that point of time, from the state, I'm asking the state, how long?
Less
A minute?
than 30 seconds.
30 seconds?
Right, yes, sir.
All right. What had changed at any time during the course of that interrogation from the time he was arrested? Anything as far as information they knew or had?
No, they didn't, but it is a common technique to let a person, because again, it's the defendant's perspective. Is he making a voluntary statement and giving him the perception that he is free to leave and not under custody, which he was not? Then he's, it makes the statement admissible from our perspective. Your Honor.
Okay. What's the defense say?
Defense says the manifestation is when they walked in the day before to the justice or the judge or the magistrate, told them their probable cause, their relevant facts and reason to believe that arrest warrant. They knew when they left Jefferson County that they were going to arrest him and he wasn't free to leave. That's the manifestation when he walked into the jury, into the interrogation room, when they knew that he wasn't free to leave, but then told him, yes, which was a complete lie, that he was, in order to get him to talk. Because he wasn't free to leave, and if you listen to the very end of it, he didn't even make that door before you could hear someone in the background saying, "You're under arrest for murder." And you've also heard it from the ranger that says, yes, we had the warrant, we knew he wasn't, and he wasn't leaving that police department. That's the defense's manifestation, Judge.
Any further response from the state?
The purpose of requiring 3822 is to make sure that the statements are voluntary and honest. And this occurred here. That's the reason why the U.S. Supreme Court and the Court of Criminal Appeals have stated, at least the ones I quoted, is that it has to be from the perspective of the defendant. What did he reasonably believe? And everything that was portrayed on there is he would have been reason to believe that he was free to leave. It's in law.
What you're saying is free to leave the interrogation does not require any additional time time period once he leaves the room.
I do agree with that. Because it's all geared towards making whatever that particular suspect says is voluntary. That's the goal. And in this case, it was. And they did arrest him, but the perspective of law enforcement, when they interrogate people all the time, as the court knows, is they are allowed to lie to suspects about different things to get information. And this was totally appropriate, use of their time and techniques.
I didn't, what were the, I didn't hear very many lies on this interrogation.
Well, I was responding to Mr. Burbank. The only one he's saying they lied by not telling him he was under arrest and free to leave. Albeit they did not tell him he was going to be under arrest, but at that stage, he was not under arrest.
But he wasn't free to leave, Judge, because there was a warrant out for his arrest, and the court well knows if you have a warrant and you're in, and with next to a police officer, he has to place you in custody and under arrest.
Again, from the perspective of the defendant, he was free to leave and did in fact leave. He left that room and everything he said before then was voluntary.
Under false pretense.
Once again, this is the most important prong on this whole issue because it all circles around this. Is when there is probable cause to arrest and law enforcement officers do not tell the suspect that he is free to leave. You're not doubting that there's not a controversy that there was probable cause to arrest him. They had a warrant in their hand. Then the question then is this part, that he is free to leave. Are you saying that the fact that he was able to leave and go 10 feet and get arrested, that takes care of that problem?
Yes.
Why?
Because the fourth situation you're referring to is the officer's knowledge of probable cause must be manifested to the suspect and custody is established only if the manifestation of probable cause combined with other circumstance would lead a reasonable person to believe she is under arrest. They did not manifest to him or tell him that he of the probable cause, and the other circumstances did not lead him to believe he was under arrest at the time he's giving his statement. Okay. And that's the important time.
Explain this to me. With regard to the fourth, and this is from State versus Ortiz, who's a 2012 decision that cites this. With regard to the fourth category, we explained that the officer's belief that probable cause exists must be manifested to the suspect. Quotes. What do you take that to mean? Manifested to the suspect? Made known.
That is how I interpret. They tell him that he's been charged or he's going to be arrested with murder or, you know, and I don't, but it's just one part of the prong, and the other circumstances would lead a reasonable person to believe he or she is under restraint. None of that occurred prior to him walking out of that room.
Okay, this once again, that the officer's belief of probable cause exists must be manifested to the suspect. You're saying that's the point of time when probable cause becomes known to the suspect and he subjectively understands that he is under arrest, which you say was not expressed to him until after he left the door. After he left.
When they began to talk to him about the evidence they had, that is part of what their original probable cause, but that is only part of it. He is allowed to, it is, if they manifested it to it, it is the state's position that they would have had to explain to him that you're being arrested in some form or fashion, or meaning the same thing, that you're being arrested for the murder of Catherine Edwards. Just stating that his semen was in Catherine or on the comforter, I would argue is not enough, and certainly not enough alone. It would, even if we accepted that as a true manifestation of the probable cause, it would have to be in conjunction with there were other circumstances which would lead him at that time, prior to him walking out that door, that he was restrained or under arrest. Nothing occurred which would trigger that. He walked out, they offered him, you're free to leave, and he walked out that door. after he left the door, him being arrested is, from the state's perspective, irrelevant to the consideration of whether or not he his statement's voluntary and does or does not comply with 3822.
Okay. Once again, the authorities say he's free to leave. But he wasn't going farther than a few feet out of that door. Isn't that correct? Isn't that correct?
Yes, I mean, to a certain level, but from our perspective and what we believe we've cited, the law we've cited, it's from his perspective, not the law enforcement. What they think's about to happen doesn't matter in the perspective of whether or not 3822 applies.
Anything else from defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right, here's what's going to happen. We're going to have to recess.
Yes, sir.
Because the court, when this pops up, the rules say that the court has to manifest its decision into a written set of orders of its findings and its decision. And we really can't go farther until that is done, which I'm going to do. But it's not going to get done this afternoon before we need to leave. So we're going to recess the proceedings until 9 o'clock on Monday.
No one else.
Oh, I agree.
No. You didn't even write anything, so it's been-
Can you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Steve Mays.
And where do you work?
I work for the Jefferson County Regional Fund.
How long have you worked for them?
Be 18 years this year.
And what do you do for them right now?
Right now, I'm the interim director.
Back in 2023, were you employed with the Jefferson County Regional Crime Laboratory?
Well, yes.
And as part of that, was part of your duties, if evidence came in, you'd either repackage it, inventory it, or you would, as part of your duties, would you also allow evidence to go out and mark what went in and out?
Yes, typically it's biological evidence.
Okay, let me show you just a couple pieces of evidence real quick. So this won't take long. Station Exhibit 33C, and I don't think you're using that. 33C, do you recognize anything on this symbol?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize?
The handwriting with our unique lab number and the exhibit number and my initials on it. And this seal with Jefferson County Crime Lab tape with, again, with my initials and date.
Now, do you know why your initials are on there for May 11th, 2023?
Yes, I do.
Why?
I packaged this material so that it could be picked up by a Beaumont PD officer who, as I understand it, was taking it to the BPS lab in Houston.
Okay, so after when you took it out, I guess you took it out of your vault.
Yes.
And placed it in this envelope, is that correct?
That's correct.
And then did you also place it in State's Exhibit 33D?
I did, yes. Again, you can see this is my handwriting, our unique lab number, exhibit numbers, the Beaumont PD case number, my initials, with my seal on it with Jefferson County tape, with again with my initials and date.
Okay. And so you sealed it inside of this envelope in 33D, is that correct?
That's correct.
And somebody picked it up personally from your lab?
That's correct.
Okay. So let's look at 35. Do you recognize State Exhibit 35?
Yes, I do.
And what's in State Exhibit 35? Let's go down.
And this is packaging that says it is the fingernail scrapings.
Okay. And then did you place those inside of State Exhibit 35?
Yes, I did.
And what was the purpose of putting it in State Exhibit 35?
Again, this is packaging it in a way that BPS Crime Lab kind of prefers things to be packaged so it could be submitted to them.
And I think that's the only thing you did in this one. So once this is sealed up, was this made ready for somebody to pick up?
Yes, it was.
And so you did not have anything to do with it after that? Did you?
That's correct.
And just for
record purposes, Stacy did 33, what was contained in Stacy did 33?
This would be, some material that came out of the sexual assault kit. It would be the anal and vaginal swabs from that kit.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'll pass what's Jeff.
No questions, Ms. Hayes.
Will this man be excused?
Please, Jeff.
You are excused, sir. Thank you. Next. Anyone?
That's it, Judge, except for what you want to do.
All right. What did I want to do?
You told us after this witness you wanted to break, so.
Yeah, we're going to break. We actually, there's no more witnesses here for the day. And we're going to ask you to please return back at 9 o'clock on Monday. Please remember the instructions that have been given to you and have a nice weekend. Thank you. Everyone remain seated while the jury exits first. Thank you.